Hi, and welcome to the next episode. We're going to do a Google Autocomplete episode, mainly because they seem to be quite popular at the moment, and I thought it might be fun to do. So on the side here, I have Julian, who some of you might recognise as from editing certain things over on Simon's channels. So he's going to ask me some questions. We're going to start by Googling how do blind people, and then go through each letter of the alphabet. I'll answer the questions and we'll just have a bit of a back and forth. We'll see how we get on. Do you want to say hi, Julian?
Hello. And it's about 1 p.m. my time here as we're starting this, and I'm having a beer. So I don't know if you're drinking, because I think it's close to 9 p.m. for you?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock here. I showed you that nice bottle of cider I had in the fridge, but I left it in the fridge. So I I have a coffee, which is ever so slightly Irish, with some Cavassier in it, which is nice.
I grew up with it, and I just cannot handle Cavassiers in the least. I'm a whiskey man, Scotch particularly. So I hear Cavassier, I'm like, ugh. That just reminds me of a lot of very sick mornings.
Yeah, it does provide a rather special hangover. It's what I had in the cupboard. So
cupboard at the office, or did you bring it with you?
Yeah. Well, it was in my bag a while ago, and I took it out at the office and left it in the office cupboard. I thought maybe I'd need it on an occasion such as this. Yeah, turns out that I was right.
Didn't think I was the only one with the bottle of whiskey in the office. Got one just right next to my foot. All right, so we're gonna do this Google.com, and I'm gonna put in how do blind people, and then I'll go with a letter. We'll start with A, and I'll read them off to you. You just want the top one, or you want to do a couple of these per letter?
Yeah, we'll go with the top one. I guess some of them will probably overlap, so people are asking the same thing in different ways. So if you come across anything like that, just skip down a bit, or just pick whatever one you think is the best question, I guess.
Okay, that's mighty brave of you. Okay, how do blind people A? Okay, the first one is how do blind people adapt? So that's a very broad question.
Yeah, I think it's different for different people, because I was born with the sight condition I have. I have lost it a little bit over the years, but it's pretty stable. So I guess I didn't really adapt in the sense of the word, as I think that question means. I just kind of grew up with it, so I didn't know any different. When other people were learning to do handwriting, I was learning Braille and touch typing, so I didn't really have to adapt as such. But for those who have had sight and lost it, that's a much steeper curve, I would think.
It's going to be weird one day when we can rebind vision for people who are born blind, because I'm willing to bet the stuff that you kind of imagine doesn't look like that in real life.
Here's the thing. I don't imagine how stuff looks, because the part of my brain that processes imagery doesn't really do that much, because it only works with the images that I have, which is just light and dark and shadow. So visual imagination isn't really a thing for me.
I mean, that makes sense. And as for a sighted person, that sounds wild. That's gonna keep me up at night.
Wait till we get to dreaming. I bet that's on that.
Well, that'd probably be in the D's. I'm gonna note that. We're gonna circle back around to to blind dreaming. There's a second one on here for the A's that actually, it's a cheat, but it's probably a good one to answer. How do blind people and deaf people communicate? I wanted to truncate that to how do blind and deaf people communicate?
With a great deal of difficulty. It's very, very socially awkward. For me anyway, if I meet a deaf person, I can't sign, and even if I could, it would just be the equivalent of me having a one-way conversation. Obviously, a lot of deaf people can't speak, and that's much easier. But no, that's a difficult barrier to cross, unfortunately, if a blind person comes to somebody who can only sign.
So even with modern tech, does it make it any easier? Kind of like,
Oh, dude, no, yeah, of course we could just text,
it would just be, well, it's not that much dissimilar from having dinner with someone in modern day with the phone out, is it? I was actually with my my wife and kid the other day, and we're sitting at a restaurant, like purely silent, and I was just thinking, wait a minute, it's quiet, and I look up from my phone, and she's on her phone, and my daughter is on a phone. I was like, this is that dystopian future we were all imagining.
You went out for a nice family meal, and you just
I mean,
just not even talking.
We had just cleaned the house, and I didn't want to incur any dishes because I was so tired of doing them. There was this one night where we had a massive amount of dishes, and it's about an hour and a half of doing it, and I was like proofing a video of mine while I was doing the dishes.
Dude, I have a machine. It's great. You put the dishes in it, and then it cleans them.
Well, this is how massive that was. That was full, and we still had a full sink of dishes, man.
I would have just waited and done another load.
Can't do that with a kid, unfortunately. You have one too. Like, just
yeah. No, we don't get through that many dishes. Not to the point where I would have to wash up for an hour and a half and have the dishwasher on.
Okay, enough about that. We will go to how do blind people be. I'm pausing because this. Okay, how do blind people brush their teeth? Like, that's a sensory thing. That's tactile. You don't need sight to do this. But would you like to answer that?
I imagine the same way that everyone else brushes their teeth. Oh, I tell you what, though, when I cut my hand with the table saw, I've realised, because I cut my left hand and I'm left-handed, and I realised how absolutely left-hand dependent I am. I was trying to brush my teeth, and I don't know, it was like I was trying to hold a hammer. And
this story's mainly been told by Simon. Like, how did you? Why? Because when you think non-sighted and table saw, those typically don't mix in the same sentence.
That's what they told me at the hospital. I've been using power tools since I was really young. I mean, my parents were very much of the we'll work out a way and you'll be able to do it kind of thing. And on this occasion, it was just the only reason I cut my hand at all was the blade in the table saw was blunt. I bought a new one, and I thought, I was finishing something, and I thought I'll just finish this, and then I'll change the blade, and it'll be fresh for tomorrow. And I did, and it hit a knot in the wood that I was cutting, and because the blade was blunt, it didn't just cut through that knot. It kicked the wood, and that pulled my hand across and into the blade. And I
fucking
can't. You've seen the pictures. It didn't even hurt though at the time. It felt like I'd bashed my hand, but I knew straight away. I was like, "This is going to be a problem."
Yeah.
So I turned the saw off and wrapped my hand up in my shirt, and right, let's see. And then my shirt started immediately to be soaked. So I quickly went up to the house, but when you cut yourself and it drips, this was like a stream,
It's like 1 p.m. and I just had lunch.
But my wife was at work, and so I'm thinking, I'm not far from the hospital, but I thought, I'm going to have to get a taxi or whatnot. Now I'm thinking, they're not going to let me in a taxi, bleeding everywhere. So I went around to my next door neighbour, this lovely old lady, and I knocked on the door and she answered it. I said, I've cut my fingers in the table saw. Can you take me to the hospital? And she said, yeah, no problem. And I didn't realise at the time until I was sitting in the waiting room later. So my wife turned up and we were sitting in the waiting room. But when I had done it, at some point I put my hand across my face So when I knocked on this old lady's door, my face is just absolutely caked in blood. She must have a heart attack. But I bought her some flowers, and she still talks to me. So
I can't imagine. If I had a neighbor just come rapping at my door. Well, first of all, no one does that shit anymore. And if that happened and I just saw like a blood-covered blind person, my first instinct wouldn't be like, oh, you harmed yourself with a table saw. I wonder though if there's some kind of law that you would, if you owned a taxi company or you were a taxi driver, that in an emergency situation, like, oh, I don't know, someone bleeding out, that you can't refuse service. Like, is there a good Samaritan law about that?
That'd be interesting to find out, because I've never heard of a taxi driver refusing to, say, take a pregnant lady to the hospital. And that can make a mess, you know?
Yeah. I saw my daughter being born. I was there.
I was there. I didn't see it, but yeah.
I think the expression is eye-opening. All right. We will go to C. This is actually very, very, very related to you. How do blind people cook?
I was hoping this would come up because I can plug my other videos. For a full and extensive answer, please check my other content. Yeah, don't check out the other videos until you finish watching this. But they're all there. I explain it in the other channels as well, but I try and keep everything in the same place. Like, but if I'm cooking, actually, this is kind of a lie. When I do the cooking channels, when I do the cooking videos, I set stuff up much more carefully and organized than I do when I'm actually cooking. In real life, I'm kind of just, oh, there's that rummaging around for stuff. But theoretically, the best way to do it is to lay everything out that you're going to use, so you know where it is. If you're learning, start with small recipes, easier stuff, and then build up your talent that way. But I guess that's kind of the same with anybody learning how to cook.
Yeah, you learn how to boil an egg first. Make sure you don't fuck that up.
But yeah, it's one of those things that can be done. You just have to approach it in a slightly different way. Unfortunately, and I've mentioned this before, a lot of people who lose their sight later in life, I think it's probably a crosser between being depressed about losing the sight and just like the overwhelming thing of having to adapt. But a lot of people don't learn new ways of doing things, and then just kind of live out the rest of their lives not doing things. I can't even imagine living like that.
This is actually really interesting. I'm going to stay on the C for just one, because we talked about this a while ago. How do blind people cross the street?
Okay, carefully. You know, when you were at school, did you have the green cross code, or is that a British thing?
That sounds very British. I have no idea what that is.
I think actually when it first started, it was the guy, you know, the powerlifter guy who was Darth Vader.
Oh, yeah,
I think he was the original Green Cross man, and he does the thing for kids. It's like look, listen, look again before you cross, basically. Look it up. Look it up at some point. I'm sure it's Darth Vader.
Brit Green Cross man. Oh, what do you know it is, Dave Prose?
There you go.
Prowse.
Prowse. Darth Vader taught British kids how to cross the road. But yeah, essentially it's the same sort of situation, just obviously you can't look, but listen very carefully in both directions, and then do that again. I know how I'm going to die though. I'm going to be mown down by an electric car, I think. If I can introduce a conspiracy theory to the mix, I think the UK government is so strapped for cash at the moment. They're trying to cut down on benefits payments by promoting electric cars, and the more electric cars there are, the more blind people are likely to be mown down by silent cars.
So are they that quiet though? Because I can generally hear them, especially when they're backing up, because they make this very obnoxious, high-pitched whir.
Yeah, I can hear them, and they have. I assume it's the same everywhere, but in the UK they have sound emitters that like add in a bit of extra noise to the mix when they're traveling below a certain speed. The way the internet would, like online forums would have you believe, then blind people would moan a lot online. Sorry, small portion of my audience who didn't come from Brainblade. But yeah, they are quieter than a big diesel or electric, but I don't think it's a huge issue. I hear them coming.
I was just gonna say I would think that it'd be really funny if that became a huge issue as electric cars advance. They just become more silent, and all of a sudden electric cars have to be built in with speakers to emit driving style noises that you can customize.
You could have like a Ferrari sound, you know.
I don't know. I think I would just have the like dying duck army if I had like, you know, the 2032 Prius. Like
yeah. Yeah, you should be able to customize it. You should be able to customize it. Or like the TIE fighter noise, you know?
Oh God. Like if you hear that from inside the car, could you imagine? Wife would fucking kill me. Let's move on to the D. How do blind people... Hey, we did cycle back to this. Top result. How do blind people dream?
Okay. Again, there are two answers for this. I dream in this visually the same way that I see things. So light, dark, shadows. That's my lot. But if you've been able to see in the past, then those memories still exist in your brain. So you can, even if you've literally physically lost both of your eyes, you can still dream in full color, as it were, because your brain has those memories to work with.
In terms of dreaming in general, right? Like there's a lot of emotion, a lot of sensory stuff outside of sight involved. And I'm assuming that that still carries forward, right? Like none of that is affected.
Well, no, like I said, as I only know from my experience, but yeah, I still have sound, smell, and like the emotions brought about by being in a dream state. Yeah,
this is just an alphabetical cheat again, but this is kind of interesting. Further down on the list, it should have been in the C's, but it's in the D's because of do. How do blind people do CAPTCHAs?
CAPTCHAs?
Yeah, you know the online "Are you a robot" test?
Oh, if you look underneath, there's a "Give me an audio challenge" option. And if you click that, then it plays a really, really, really scratchy audio clip of 2 words, and then you have to type those in.
I don't think I've ever noticed that.
Next time, check it out.
Yeah, no, I literally just did, because there are a lot of sites that have you run a CAPTCHA if you use any incognito mode. So I just launched an incognito mode right now and went to a site, and I was just like, there is that button.
And there is Firefox now has a cookie you can install where it just does them for you. But I think actually it's available on Safari as well now.
That's awesome.
Also, I don't know if you do know, but VoiceOver has image recognition now. So it'll pick out sometimes, depending on what it is. If it's a simple capture, like pick the thing with bicycles, for example, and bicycles are the most prominent thing in the capture image, it will tell you which one has bicycles in it.
Yeah, it's trains, buses, crosswalks, and bicycles. Are you a robot? No. I told it to do the thing.
I love sometimes it doesn't even do the capture, does it? It just says, "Are you a robot?" and you click no, and it's like, okay, I believe you.
Do you know how that works?
Isn't it to do with like how you react with the page, like how quickly you come up to to click on it? And stuff?
No. So it's actually really cool, and so when I actually edit in like the Google search gags in Brainblaze, oh my dogs are going nuts. When I edit those in, I actually have to animate my mouse to look real instead of just like going in a straight line, but that's what they look for. It tracks your mouse movement because a bot or a script will just move in straight lines versus human beings have jitters. We kind of just like shake the mouse a little bit before we move it over. And it's not a straight line. It's never a straight line. So that's how it kind of knows. Or, you know, if it's just a script that looks for specific attributes or elements on the document itself, it will just do the click event for you. So it looks for that too.
Fair enough.
That'll do us for the D's. So that naturally brings us to E. God. Okay, this is the first result. How do blind people eat, Dave?
Really?
That's the top result.
I don't think, like, if I haven't got any snacks, otherwise I'd do a demo for those people who really want to know. But the worrying thing about those is many people have asked that question for that to be the top result on Google. There are lots of people out there who think that that's a genuine question that needs an answer.
I mean, I would figure that it's just an articulate version of like how do blind people use certain utensils like chopsticks, you know, because kind of need to see where that is.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I just can't chopsticks, especially now, because my fingers healed very well, but I'm showing the camera, down the side of my finger is still numb, so like there's no physical, no data coming from the side of my finger, so I didn't really notice it as a thing till the other day. My little boy's learning to play the recorder, and I had the recorder in my hand and I went to spin it like you would with a drumstick between your fingers, you know, and it just fell on the floor because I was expecting the feedback response of it coming over the top of my index finger and it just wasn't there. So I went to spin it and it just went, just threw it on the floor. And he was like, "What'd you do that for?"
Just imagine your kid like, was this a learning moment for me or you? Okay, an actual serious E. So the E's are okay. I'm gonna read off a list of them because most of these are just odd. So you get to pick for the E's. So we did E. How do blind people eyes look?
I don't know.
How do blind people experience attraction? Because apparently you're all unattractive. How do blind people exercise? How do blind people enjoy life?
That's sad.
Right? How do blind people earn money? How do blind people enjoy movies? How do blind people experience the world? How do blind people experience art? And how do blind people echolocate?
See.
Because you can all do it, apparently.
Did you see the video? I covered that, and I don't know if it was one you edited, but I covered that.
Dude, I edited that one. Oh, you don't know. I put in there that I actually did this. But it's not great because I have a toddler and my house is full of Lego. So
oh, Lego. Lego, I imagine for the rest of the world, Lego is the worst thing to step on. But in the UK, we have 3-pin plugs that go upside down like turtles.
Oh, God.
You haven't stepped on something sharp until you've been running to the front door and stepped on a 3-pin plug.
I imagine it's because, like, a localization thing that most UK accessories or peripherals and such that need to get plugged into the wall have a removable plug, so you can adapt it to another country really easily.
No, most stuff you buy over here is sealed plug units. And just thinking what I've got here, I mean, like my Mac is obviously the standard, you know, you can just slide the bottom off and plug something else in. But yeah, most stuff is I've got fuck all with a plug. I've got a kettle back there, but that's not really going to demonstrate the point because of course it would be. America doesn't have kettles really, do they?
I do. I've got 3.
You've got everyone else's.
This is a little bit different because I grew up in an Asian household and we've always had a kettle. We also have water heaters, not like, for your house, but we have these little units that just dispense maybe like 2 liters of water that just boil water. So we've always had something akin to a kettle.
We call those urns.
An urn?
Yeah.
Like what you keep dead people's ashes in?
The same word. But yeah, you're talking like a mini immersion heater, yeah? So you just have it holding hot water all the time and you tap it off.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be a tea urn in the UK.
That's so grim.
With a UK plug, if you haven't got anything to go into the earthing pin, the plug doesn't work. But you can't even put the plug into the socket. The earthing pin is slightly longer, so when it goes in, it pushes a little mechanism inside the socket, and it slides back these 2 little plates. So children can't push their fingers into plug sockets and get electrocuted, because unless you have something in the top pin, then there's they're gated inside.
Yeah, man. US plugs are archaic.
Plugs, gun laws.
That's why we can have challenges like the penny challenge.
I remember. Oh, I can't remember what it was I was trying to do, but the earthing pin had snapped off the plug on something that I was trying to use, and in the end, I didn't have a spare one, but I did have one of those plastic tables that go in a pizza, like in the middle of the pizza. So I snapped off one of the legs and jammed it into the earth point on the plug to open up the shutters so I could stick the socket in. Stick the plug into the socket.
I mean, it's genius. So we're going to move on to F. How do blind people find Braille?
That's interesting because it's putting Braille everywhere is very much a committee thing, the inclusion people have gone, how can we make it look like we're trying? And yeah, we'll put Braille everywhere. But the thing is, unless you have Braille that makes a noise, like it's rare that you'll find it, unless nobody really walks around just sweeping the whole walls with their hands just in case they find Braille. Is there Braille there? This was.
Could you imagine seeing that from afar? Like, man, he's really in the walls.
I don't know if you remember this. One of the first Brain Blazes I ever wrote, I told this story, but in the pub I used to run, when we finally got into the kitchen and started clearing it out, because the pub had been used by squatters and stuff for a year before we got it. So cleaning out the oven, and one of the guys who was working with me called me over. He said, come here a minute, check this out. And he said, there's Braille in the back of the oven. I was like, fuck off, there's no Braille. What are you on about? So I leaned in, and on the heating element, on the plate for the heating element, it said in Braille, and I promise you this is true, caution, do not touch.
Well, I had to touch it to find out, didn't I? In the emergency room, I have like 5-degree burns on your hand. How'd you even get in there in the first place to get there? Like,
oh yeah, you had to take everything, all the shelves and everything out to even get to it. It's like...
Have you ever seen the movie The Core?
Don't think so.
The Core is a great, terrible movie. Like, insanely scientifically inaccurate, but a joyride. There's a scene in there where they're drilling down to the core of the Earth.
Okay.
And one of the scientists that actually like designed the impeller to drill the damn device down into the center of the Earth has to go into like the main compartments of where the impellers are to like restart. I forget, but he has to go in there and like crawl through temperatures of the center of the Earth's worth of metal. And he's just crawling through, and that's what I'm imagining it'd be like to like try to find that Braille as a blind person servicing your oven that happens to be on. Like, I need to know what I can't touch in here.
There wasn't any Braille on the outside.
I'm gonna ask this just because it's on here. It's the last one that's in the drop down, and it's apparently a theme for these how do blind people questions. Dave, how do people find love?
Well, it's tricky, isn't it?
Because you don't experience love the way sighted people do.
I'd say when I was, I'm really, really like clueless when it comes to certain social cues, right? So when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I'd be talking to someone at the bar, like talking to a girl, and for like half an hour about nothing, and then they'd be like, oh, "Okay, I'm going to go now." And then friends of mine would be like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "What are you on about?" "She's been hitting on you for the last half an hour." Like, no. Just having a chat. No. It's a good job my wife was persistent, I tell you, otherwise I'd have been single forever.
I mean, there are a lot of visual cues, like playing with hair or just lip biting or eye movement or some such, but like overall attraction and like sensing it, men are kind of dense about that anyway, aren't we? I mean, in the same vein, someone else asked but how blind people fall in love, because can you?
just have to hope it happens because you won't notice, you know. Well, I won't notice.
I think this is just for very, very, very vain people, because this is like, how do you fall in love if you can't see that they're ugly or not?
I'd say one thing actually, and I've always thought this. I think there is a benefit. Sorry, I'm trying to reach my coffee pot. There is a benefit to being blind, and that is that no matter how hard someone tries as a sighted person, when they look at someone, they've already made biased decisions about that person. Like,
1,000%.
And I will talk to anybody and then make a decision on whether I like that person from having spoken to them, rather than sort of preconceived ideas I might have had going into that conversation. And I think that's a positive.
It is. And I think this day and age, like, most folks would say that they don't, but we all do. It's an evolutionary or an adaptive response over time that we need to be able to do that if you're sighted, because you have to make quick judgments on safety, because, like shifty people, there's a look to them.
There you go.
Like, there's a reason why, like, a child kidnapper van looks the way it does stereotypically.
Yeah.
So people are the same. Like, you do make a judgment on that. Although I think it's a little bit better to say, like, you can acknowledge how you feel about that look, but be open to finding out more. Because I tell you, my wife is way out of my league. So if she was a little bit open-minded, my child would not have been born.
Did your child take after your wife for you?
Unfortunately, me. So I have a very distinct nose that carries across many, many, many generations. We all married outside of our ethnicity. So we've got Black, Latino, Caucasian, whatnots. And one thing has persisted is our nose. So when my child was born, she got my nose.
Thanks, Dad.
I had a lengthy conversation about this with my wife, too.
Just so you know, our child is going to have my nose.
Yeah, no, it's a very distinct one. Like, if you take a look at, like, my father's side of the family, like, it goes back pretty far that we've been able to track. So we've had, like, artwork done, portraits. We've had portraits, and then it goes to, like, actual photos. The nose carries. So, like, my wife was talking to me. She's like, so how do we want to do our kid's last name, before she was born? I was like, I don't care. Like, the name's not going to matter. Trust me. She's like, oh, why? Don't you want the people to know that, like, you're the dad? I'm like, they're going to fucking know. At least she has, like, most of her mom's features. It's just my nose.
My little boy can't get my nose because he could get, like, it won't look like mine, hopefully, when he grows up, because mine's been broken so many times. He would have to have a really, really unfortunate run of luck to end up with my nose.
You do not pre-watch. You do watch videos, the moment they're uploaded after they're recorded, before I or any of the editors touch them. So you probably know that Simon has asked, like, what do you do that like breaks your nose? This was a couple of depending on what this goes at, a few videos ago, but like, what do you do?
I don't do anything anymore. Since I had a child, I've been a responsible, functioning member of society. I've done some stupid shit over the years.
I'm gonna choose the last result here, or the last auto recommendation. Dave, how do blind people get married?
Well, I got married in a registry office, which is kind of, I don't know what it's like in America, but it's more common now, I think, for people to get married in a registry office, like going to the courthouse rather than a church situation. But yeah, we went and registered saying that we wanted to get married. We invited people and we got married. How did you get married, Julian?
Oh, well, we had to do that too, because, regardless of what Hollywood likes you to think, you still got to register. What you described was what we would call a city hall wedding, where you just kind of go to city hall, get the certificate or whatever forms you need to sign, get it notarized and whatnot, and file it. Some people just go to city hall, do that, and that's their wedding. For us, we had a venue down in part of Northern California where I'm from. Not in a church. It was at a wedding venue. I don't know if the UK has this, but there's just certain places that kind of specialize in that, event centers and whatnot, but like a little bit more rustic and like pretty looking instead of like a convention hall. Yeah, it was just that. I used to play violin pretty proficiently in my youth and hadn't touched it in like 20 years, and figured, hey, like it'd be romantic if I played my wife down the aisle to Pachelbel's Canon, and I did.
That would? Was it? I assume you practiced, yeah?
Kinda. I mean, at the time I was working for a startup, so like I was always busy, and I was living with my then girlfriend, now wife, so it's not like I can practice without her knowing.
The violin cannot be practiced quietly, can I?
Yeah. So I think I like got the first note out with precision, and the rest was just a cat dying.
Yeah, you can just blame it on nerves, though, can't you?
Oh, well, the good thing is we had a wedding photographer also did the videography. And she kind of just played music over that part as part of a montage. So yeah, that's how I got married. Boring, except me trying to attempt the violin after 20 years. Okay, this might actually be a good one for you to answer. Still in the G's, but how do blind people get money?
Well, the bank hold-ups and stuff are a bit more difficult, It's harder to escape when you've got a dog or a long cane.
Could you imagine like Heat, where it's like, hands in the air? Are they up yet? Describe what you're doing to me so I can effectively rob you.
There's a possibility I might not be in this camera shot because the camera's stopped tracking, so I've kind of pointed it at me as best I can.
I'll find a way around it.
That's your thing. You'll figure it out.
If Simon's camera can stop recording and it become a thing, then I can do this. All right.
Oh yeah, dude, that was popular. People were like, "You've got to do that all the time." I was reading the comments. I was like, "There's no way he's going to do that all the time." I know how long it took him to do it.
It didn't take me that long at all.
Yeah, you told me it did.
So the initial version of it did. The ending one that I figured out would be a lot better didn't. So I originally did it by hand because I wanted it to look somewhat like, it's brain blaze, so things looking a little scuffed is kind of the thing. But I wanted to make it nicer. So like I wanted to make the jaws like pivot back and forth on an angle and whatnot. In the end, like I just tracked it to the waveform.
Fair enough.
So that kind of worked.
Yeah, let's do H, and then I think we're going to have to make this into a mini series. Otherwise, no one's going to watch it to the end.
Yeah. 5 hours later, we're on I.
And Dave isn't married anymore.
What happened in those 2 videos, man? Well, he just like started coming home at like 1 a.m. Okay, so since this is H, I'm going to read them to you and you get to pick it because a lot of these are fun. Dave, how do blind people have kids? How do blind people have fun? How do blind people have dreams? How do blind people have babies? How do blind people handle cash? How do blind people hear? How do blind people hallucinate? How do blind people hear the eclipse? I'm going to stop there because who hears it?
Well, you can combine the first one and the second one.
Please answer the eclipse one.
As far as I'm aware, you can't hear the eclipse.
No.
But
so dumb.
Maybe you can with like a radio telescope. I don't know, but I can honestly say I've never heard an eclipse.
I can honestly tell you most, if not all, sighted people have never heard an eclipse. Unless it was presented to you by like Morgan Freeman.
Anyway, Patrick Moore.
Oh,
He'd be the guy. Yeah, like Yeltsin.
I edited that video too.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that was when Russia was fun.
Remember when? So of all the assets that I actually make for Blazes, maybe about like a quarter or a fifth of them actually get used. I had so many for Yeltsin and I only used like 3 of them. Or maybe even just like 2. But at one point I animated this thing where he was running around DC in his underwear. And I was like, tensions are high enough as it is. I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I tell you what, you can put it in here.
No, because we're still trying to monetize you. And also, I'm not looking to have this anywhere on the internet if it's going to put like an X on my name. I have a family.
I suppose a better answer: how do blind people have kids, and how do blind people have fun? Well, you can take the second one and apply it to the first one. That works out. You can have fun whilst
they're not mutually exclusive
hopefully,
at all.
The same way that everybody else has kids is the answer.
You mean to tell me that there aren't Braille instructions on women?
Not actually on the women, but there are probably Braille instructions somewhere.
In the future, when they, genetically modify us for any and everything that we would want on our bodies, exceptionally accessible people will have like their CVs, their bios, instructions as like bumps on their body for the blind to feel. This is exit only.
What are you drinking this evening, Julian?
I am having myself a Pliny for President from Russian River. I go out and get the Elder, Pliny the Elder, like once a week because we're limited to a case of 12 at a time. So grabbing a rack of 12 of those typically is good. But for the 4th of July, since the pandemic lockdown started, they started doing this Pliny for President run of their beers, which is like just a more floral and earthy noted. I drink good beer, but I don't taste these notes they're talking about. It's just good beer.
Oh no, I can't ever taste it.
Of Swedish chocolate, and the notes of Nazi gold.
No, I'm afraid I'm terrible as well with wine. I'll drink wine that tastes nice, or I won't drink wine that doesn't,
It's actually really funny. So when I first met my wife, it was just whiskey and beer for me. And she was a big wine person, still is. And one of our first dates, she took me out to a wine tasting. I'm like, babe, I'm not really that much into wine. She's like, well, it'll be fun. Keep your mind open. I'm like, I'm drinking, so I'm gonna have fun. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying, like, I might not do well. And
I'm not a connoisseur.
yeah, well, they were just pouring, and I was like, so do you want to just tell me like how these things are supposed to kind of taste, like what a merlot is supposed to go down? I know it's Merlot, but I was just messing around. And she told me like, oh, these are supposed to be more bold. This is supposed to be crisp. You're supposed to get notes of this, this, and this. I'm like, is it made with any of that in it? And they're like, no, but it's just the way that, it's made. And, I forget. But when it came down to it, I got 10 out of 10. Because, I may not drink the one, but I have like a very sensitive palate. I know what's good. I know what I'm supposed to look for. It's just, I don't taste blueberries in something that was made out of grapes.
No. The other thing is, the main thing is as well, I don't care. If it tastes nice, then that's great. If it doesn't, then, sad times, move on.
You could have notes of hibiscus all you want in there, but if it's shite, it's shite.
Yeah.
Okay. So we left on what? I last time? H?
I think we were up to I, yeah. When I had the pub, we found like a case of old whiskey up in the attic space. And we had a couple of the bottles valued. And the collector was like, oh yeah, they're worth about $2,000. So I said, well, we've got to try one. So like popped the cork and it was okay, It was okay. It was mild. it was but I wouldn't pay $2,000 for anything I couldn't drive. But no, it wasn't worth £2,000.
Was it a bottle, like a singular bottle, or like the collection of bottles was worth $2,000?
No, per bottle. There's a case of bottle. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it was. I'd have to check. But it was some ancient. It's not vintage, is it? Vintage is grapes.
No, you can say vintaged. Beers are vintaged now.
Okay.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Yeah, I believe you. It's been out of the alcohol game for a long time now.
I don't know if barrel-aged stouts are a big thing in the EU, but they're definitely a huge thing out here, or at least around where I am. They're a big thing. You can get like a little 12-ounce bottle of something that was just very well-aged for like $35. So per volume, a really nice beer will outclass nice wine. Because you get 750 mils versus like 12 ounces.
Oh yeah, with the lager I'm drinking here is 5%, but they've got New England double pale ale, which I think is 8%.
Ooh.
You're getting the same stuff as I am. Yours just hasn't arrived yet.
Oh, yeah, it'll get here.
You should be getting a selection. I got 12 cans. One of them isn't actually a beer.
Ooh.
It's called Fuzz, I think, and it's like some sort of fruity situation. It sounds fun. I think it'll only be nice if it's cold, but I might try that. I might try that for the next video.
I don't know how we feel about drinking something called Fuzz. That's like handing me a can called Mold and trying to sell it as alcohol. I'm like, okay.
It's 9%. Yeah.
It's a 9er.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I think so.
Yeah, I think I'm sitting pretty at 7.25 with this dry hopped IPA.
I said I don't drink that much anymore, and I've got two of these cans, so I want to still be coherent by the end of the recording. So,
well, that's no fun.
I started light.
How big? Okay, so I've been meaning to ask because I know the UK in and of itself is small compared to the US. Like I can drive for 3 hours and remain in the same state. I can drive, well, depending on traffic, I can drive 2.5 hours and be in the same city. How big is it where you're from?
I'm mostly from Portsmouth, and that's like a small island. It is an island technically. At the bottom of the country, it's not big. I couldn't give you a volume, but you can drive out of it in 10 minutes.
I can barely drive out of my city in 10 minutes. So if I were to ever say visit, I could probably do the entire city in like a walking distance in a day.
Maybe not walk it, but it depends what you wanted to see. Like, you could public transport around it in a day to see the bits that are worth seeing, definitely.
I mean, I'd really just go out there just to go hang at a bar with you. So
Yeah.
I can do that in a couple days.
You can do that in a day, yeah.
Okay, I think we should get to it so that you can actually go home at a decent hour tonight. Okay, we left off on H last time. So, actually, was it I? Did I ask you how blind people identify money?
No, you didn't.
Okay, so we did leave off on H.
But yeah, that's a good. Are we going for that? How do blind people identify money?
I'm looking at it now. So the I's are a little tougher because they're not things that start with I, they're connecting. So it's like, how many blind people are there in the world? How do blind people identify other blind people?
We walk into each other.
You bump heads a little bit. Oh, Roger, is that you? Yes. Let's go with how does a blind person identify money?
Okay, that is a good question. Well, I don't know if it's a good question, but it's a question I get asked a lot. And I got Simon to do it on a Brain Blaze episode. Basically, in America, this doesn't work because they hate the disabled. But the notes, the notes in Europe and the UK. Oh yeah? How do your blind people identify their notes without folding them in weird ways like he does on Daredevil?
He doesn't fold them in weird ways. He's got this little hole punch thing that like knocks it in Braille. Or if you're watching like the Ben Affleck version where he's like wicked rich, he's got them in like these little plexiglass cases with Braille on the side. I don't know who sorts it out and puts them in there for him in the first place, but that's how he identifies.
It's been a long time since I saw it. I thought he folded them like long ways and then different ways.
It's been a while since I saw it too. But yeah,
it was a terrible film.
Maybe our government doesn't like it. We don't hate.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was talking about the government. I was talking about the government, not the citizens. Yeah, so I should make that clear. But yeah, in the UK, they've just over the past 6 years released all new notes. Because they used to be like a linen paper mix, and now they're more like the Australian money. They're made of plastic, but they are different sizes, and they've put tactile markers which look a little bit like Braille Gs. So the 5 doesn't have one, but the 10 has one of these markers on it. The 20 has two. And I have as yet to come across a 50, but I assume it probably has 3. £50 notes in England you don't want one.
Is it the same in America where they're just harder to break?
Yes, yeah. Like, if somebody pays you,
it's a weird denomination.
It's because if you're going to fake money, it's less of a thing now because they're harder to fake. But when they had the old ones, especially like in a busy pub, people would come in and they buy a pint and give you a 50, and you're like, okay, fine. So now I've got to give you £47 change, and then they come back and buy another pint with another 50, and then you'd say no. Come on. I know you've got the change because I gave it to you. I'm not breaking another 50. Just give me the change. You get £5 coins occasionally in the UK, but they're usually commemorative. Like they do them for the Euro football sometimes, and like if a royal gets married or something. But they're legal tender, but they're not in general. So like the mint doesn't put them out.
Right. Oh, okay. So I'm American, obviously. When editing, especially Simon's video, that he says like 25p, 50p. Is that like pennies for you guys? Like
yeah. Yeah, you have,
because that's like a pence, right?
Yes, pennies. Okay. Yeah, so 50p is just 50 pennies or 50 pence.
Okay, because I was like, but pounds start with a P too.
But again, in the UK, all the coins are different sizes as well. So you have a penny, a 2p, a 5p, a 10p, a 20p, a 50p, a pound coin, and a £2 coin. And they're all, markedly different shapes and sizes. So that's what I got Simon to do on the Brain Blaze video, was close his eyes and like get all his change and try and sort it out. And but it's amazing how many people can't do that because they just look I've met a few people who didn't even realize that coins were different sizes. You know, that's how sight dependent you guys are.
It might be even more common coming soon because like this next generation of kids are going to grow up with digital money.
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to be actually handling coin. So we're on J's. I'm trying to find something that's not like a meme, but some of these are just really funny that I want to ask you. Okay. Apparently, like nothing else wants to show up for J's except for how many blind people Jesus healed.
None.
Oh, actually, you know what? No. I lied. I had how do blind people okay, how do blind people get jobs?
You apply for jobs in the same way that everybody else does. Or you do what I did and you slowly work your way in. You befriend Simon Whistler and then offer to write something for him about a year later. I was really playing the long game there.
So how long was that con?
It was a long time. I mean, I always watched his stuff back like before Business Blaze, and my little boy just started getting into using the Amazon Alexa, and he put a song on by accident called "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald," and I knew the song and I knew the story. But I was talking to him about it, and then I thought, that's the sort of thing. I'm surprised Simon hasn't covered the story. But before that, I emailed him. I can't remember why. It was for this. It was for this chat for the original of this channel, where when I started doing the cooking videos, I did a couple of videos and I sent them out to all the YouTubers I watched, basically, saying, big fan, if you've got a second, could you have a quick look at this? I'm just looking for pointers and just general ideas. And Simon was the only one who got back to me, and he gave me some useful advice. And we just kind of stayed in touch. We'd email back and forth once a month. He sent me a couple of t-shirts. But yeah, so when my son got me thinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald again, I emailed Simon and I said, how come you haven't covered this? It's your sort of thing. And he said, it's in the stack for somebody to write. And then about a day later, I got an email back from him saying, would you like to have a go at writing it? And I was like, yes, absolutely. So basic, as he says, write me a sample, I'll pay you. If I like it, we'll use it and I'll pay you, I'll take you on, So I wrote that for him, and there was a little bit of a plagiarism accident where, because I had never written anything professionally before, and I'm sure I've told this story loads of times, but I basically had a block of text in my article, in my draft, that I wanted to use to quote a little bit of and sort of rewrite the information a bit. But I had so many drafts. When I'd finished, I sent him off the wrong one. And I got an email about an hour later saying, I think it said something along the lines of, I'm just doing some fact checking, as you do. And it had underneath that paragraph and then a link to that paragraph online. And he just said underneath, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Care to explain? I was like, shit. So I just emailed him straight away. I was honesty from the beginning. I said, yeah, I can't explain. I'm a fucking idiot. This is what happened. This was Friday as well. So I said, I'll send you the other one. You'll have it by the correct version. You'll have it by Monday morning. And I didn't have to change anything because I'd already done it. So I just sent it to him. Then he read it and he said he liked it and he recorded it and it went out.
Nice. I've been editing for him for months. I've not gotten any t-shirts. What the hell?
I got the smash the dislike button one.
I still don't have one.
I'm sure if you ask nicely, I'll send you.
No. It's okay. I have enough. I've worked for enough startups or contracted to even more to have an entire wardrobe of just Silicon Valley startup t-shirts. I even have a pair of like the original Slack socks, which is apparently like a very coveted commodity in the Bay Area.
Really?
Yeah. And I just showed up to one of their events. I'm like, oh, those are cool. And they're like, oh, we're giving them out. I didn't work there. I just went to like an event. I think it was like a Yelp event or something that was held there, or like a conference or something. I just snagged a pair.
Fair enough. Well, if times are ever hard, you sell your socks.
That's a different website. All right, let's move on to the K's. How do blind people? Oh, okay. So K is gonna basically just be no. So how do blind people know when to stop wiping?
See, I don't know. It's just something you'd learn over the years. I couldn't give a master class in it, but it's just something you become aware of.
There's apparently a joke tied to this. Oh God, never mind. I am not reading that. But yeah, like the first 3 results are about how do blind people know when to stop wiping. But let's see here. Okay, so this actually might be a little bit more deep or not, depending on the answer. It could go some places, but how do blind people know when to sleep?
I guess that's down to sort of someone's asked that because of circadian rhythms and light and dark and stuff. Now I know for people who have like blackness, like a friend of mine who has 2 glass eyes, that is a problem. Getting sleep patterns synced up because your circadian rhythms are set by light and dark, daylight and nighttime. It's not a problem for me because I can see light and dark, but yeah, I do know a couple of blind people who do have to take sleep medication because they really do have problems getting to sleep at the correct time. So I suppose the answer to the question is it depends on how much you can see.
Okay, so essentially, if there is pure, like what some folks would consider pure blindness, just absolute dark, nothing, you would just have to mediate by external means like medication and such.
Yeah, or I guess you can just go to bed when everybody else does and get up when they do, and I guess you'll figure it out eventually. But
could you mind a blind kid at camp? Like, is everyone going to bed yet? No, but I'm tired. No. It's like 5 p.m. It's like, how do I know this? Oh, okay. So if we're moving on to the L's, there's a good solid amount here. I'm gonna read a few off to you, and you tell me to slow down or go back or what have you.
Okay.
But there's a few to pick from. How do blind people learn to speak?
Okay, that's not even
how.
That's not even.
I know. I know.
How do deaf people learn to speak? That's a good question.
How do blind people live alone? How do blind people learn to write?
I did. Well, that's not true. My wife taught me how to write the letters of the alphabet not long after we got together, but up until then, basically my knowledge of how letters were shaped were from embossed letters on various beer glasses and occasional tactile letters around and about in life. So some people learn to write. I didn't. I learned to type, which I think was more useful. I also learned Braille, but basically when my wife showed me, she did the letters shapes on the palm of my hand, and then I practiced writing those with a pen. But I'm very bad at it. She can read my writing, but I doubt anybody else could.
That is so fucking romantic. Just imagine like John Cusack and Sandra Bullock and having a scene where like, she's teaching him how to write on the palm of his hand, dude. That is so cute. I'm not making fun of you. It's actually legitimately like very touching. The only thing I ever taught my wife was like how to do a magic trick. Okay. I think that was L's.
L.
So we're on to M.
I refuse to answer how blind people learn to speak because,
Oh, God. A lot of these on the M's are related, and we've talked about it before, like make money, make a living, blah, blah, blah. Oh, interesting. I think this is probably going to be the most relevant. How do blind people make coffee?
what I do is I pour the beans into my machine and I press the button. But I suspect they may be talking about instant coffee. There are a few ways. It depends on how much you mind getting your finger burnt, I guess. There's a thing you can buy which clips over the edge of a cup, and it's called a liquid level indicator, and it has 3 metal prongs. And when the first 2 become submerged, it makes a beeping noise. And then when the third, which is slightly higher up, gets submerged, then it makes a solid tone. So you clip that on the side of your cup and you can fill up from the kettle, pardon me, without burning yourself. A lot of people, I got quite good at this when I was working behind the bar. You can just do it by the sound. If you pour, do you know that hot water and cold water sounds different as well?
I actually do. I was gonna say this. Ever since I was a kid, I always because our refrigerators normally come built in with, well, the ones that I've had, they come built in with a little drinking water dispenser.
Oh yeah, mine has ice and crushed ice as well. It's not UK common.
No,
not at all. No.
How do people live?
I know, it's terrible. I had a normal poor person fridge until my next door neighbors had a house fire, and they came to stay with me for a while whilst they were getting everything sorted. And they had in their house one of the American style ice maker fridges, and I was saying, I'd love to get one, but they're so expensive. And my neighbor said, oh, they're not. He said you can pick them up secondhand for about 100 quid. So he found one on eBay. I bought it. The ice maker was broken, but it was only a small plastic cog inside. But he took it out and made me a metal one in his workshop, put it back in, and it worked for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't go back now. We bought one about 2 years ago for the house where I live now, and because here in where I live, it's all chalk hills around and about. So any appliance that you have that uses water, unless you actively descale it really regularly, will just die in like a year. It's terrible. But yeah, I've got an inline filter for the fridge, and so it does ice cold filtered water. It's great.
Yeah,
Would recommend.
I was gonna say, like, ever since I was a kid, I could tell by the sound, because like it gets higher pitched progressively as it goes higher. But you can, if you've done it long enough, like depending on the size of the cup, whether or not it's like big or small, or whether or not it like gets more narrow towards the bottom or the top, like you can tell.
That's another thing as well, is when I was working on the bar, you can tell when a glass, like how far a glass is from the top by the weight of the glass. If you watch someone who's worked behind the bar for a long time, they can maintain eye contact with you and talk whilst pouring your beer. They don't have to look.
Yep. I used to be able to do that. I never thought about it though, when I used to pour from the tap if someone didn't order a bottle or something.
I used to hate it when people ordered Guinness. Guinness is the worst. It takes so long.
The head foam?
Yeah, it just takes so long to do a Guinness properly, and no one ever wants a Guinness during the day when no one's in.
Because they wanted people to see them order a Guinness.
You've never got two customers in the whole pub, and someone says, "Oh, can I have a Guinness?" It's always when there's like 3 deep at the bar, and there's only one person working on there, and they're like, "Oh, can I have 5 Guinnesses, please?" I just be like, "No, sorry, the Guinness is off."
So I don't know if I ever
have a
had
different drink.
in like the early 2000s. I was really, really into Boddingtons. Is that common out there?
Yeah.
Like it's.
Oh, yeah. It used to be. You don't see it on draft as much anymore. I think it's more popular up north. But yes, it is. It is still around. It's very smooth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very smooth.
We used to call it like the cream soda of beers because it was like just really, really smooth. And the only place you can get it on tap around here was like the British Arms, which is like calling like an English pub like the American Eagle.
Can you get proper fish and chips there?
Never ordered them. I don't like seafood. So
it's the British staple. You got to try it. Nowhere can make good chips though. I went to the British thing in Disney World on is it Epcot, and they've got a British pub there run by a British person, and the chips are still shit.
How bad do fries have to be for an Englishman to complain about the quality of the food? Were they like soggy or something?
We're very particular about. I mean, fries aren't chips. If you have, like, I don't know if you can get proper British chips in America, but fries are not them.
I've been misled then. Hold on.
Okay,
British chips versus fries. Oh, you're just talking about like home style cut fries. They're just thicker.
Yeah, but they're also nice, you know. when you come when you come to the UK, I'll take you to a proper fish and chip shop. You don't have to have the fish. You can have like a battered sausage or a deep fried Mars bar or something. But
okay, well, I guess like the closest that we could probably have would be like waffle cut fries, or
they're like
cottage fries. What the fuck?
They're the sort of consistency of the size of steak cut fries.
Mm-hmm. It's really the only way they eat fries or chips. But like, okay, so going back, like how bad were these chips bad?
They just, I don't know. The whole point was it's supposed to be representing the British fish and chips, and they were just like American chips. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the oil they use. Hey, if you do steak cut fries, do you deep fry them?
I mean, if they're fries, you'd have to, right? Like that's the whole thing behind it, isn't it?
That's what I'm trying to work out why they're different, but they are different.
Maybe they baked them because you're supposed to deep fry fries. It's kind of built into the name.
The clue's in the name. Yeah.
You're supposed to fry them.
I'm not sure.
All right. What letter was that? Was that a J? Okay. L? M? N? Okay, we're on
L. N.
How do blind people navigate? And you have an option between the world, websites, airports.
I'm going to go with the world because I've already done a video on how people use everyday technology. I've never been brave enough to navigate an airport on my own. So it's the only one I feel would bring new information to the table. That, again, depends on the blind person. You have seeing eye dogs in America. They're called guide dogs in the UK. But the sort of two main choices are to use a dog or to use a white cane, a long cane. But when... Like I started off blind. So when I was growing up, I learned how to use a long cane properly. There's like different different ways you use them for when you're walking, sort of like a, you see in films with the blind people tapping with the stick.
Yeah.
That is not a thing.
That isn't.
No. So certainly not in the UK. Maybe I don't know. Have you ever seen a blind person in the wild doing the tapping thing?
Huh. I don't think I have.
Do you know why? It's not a thing. It's like a sweeping gesture. You use the cane to sweep the ground in front of you. That way, if it goes off,
that makes sense.
That way, if it goes off the edge of a cliff, or you'll know straight away, rather than if you're tapping one side then the other, and walking at the same time. There's a huge amount of time you're not getting any tactile feedback.
That's true. So when I was a kid until maybe even until now, not knowing that it was like a Hollywood invention to like tap on either side, I always thought that was for depth, like to kind of sense or get feedback on just how deep something in front of you is.
Well, yeah, but you'd get the same thing from sweeping.
I get it. I get it. I understand that. I'm just like, I wonder what. Maybe it was like a visual thing that Hollywood needed to do. It's like, you wouldn't know this, but I think early film school, I took like a class in early college, but they would teach you that the audience is dumb, so you would have to visually portray certain things. Like if an air conditioning was on, you would put like little slivers of paper on it to show that it was blowing.
Yeah.
And no one ever really questioned that. But who sticks slips of paper on their vents? Or, on a fan or something? Like no one. Particularly like 0 people.
That would be really annoying because they'd go, what the fuck is that all the time?
Billy's riding his bike with like the ace of spades in his tire again.
So films and stuff ruined for me about 15 years ago. I've got a friend who's a video producer. He did the cooking videos for me. And he told me that sound is inserted into everything, like afterwards.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I thought, and now when you think back, because everything sounds the same, there's no way that every single door and everywhere would creak in the same way, or like door handles sound, just little things, and you think, fuck, how did I not notice that before?
But I actually found this out when I was a kid because I saw a PBS special because my grandpa, he didn't speak English. He was an immigrant here. And he used to watch just strictly PBS for some reason. And there was a special on Foley sound artists. And I learned at a very early age of like how they would make certain sounds, like squishing a potato would be like, I don't know, someone walking in mud. Did I say potato or tomato? I meant tomato.
You said potato.
Squish potato. I meant tomato. But things like that. And then you start catching it. Like there's just certain sounds that are always the same because they pick from the same library because they didn't want to hire a Foley artist. But yeah, typical like around the house or just like around you. Just common sounds are typically always edited after because they have to isolate vocal tracks for all of it.
Oh yeah, I get that now, like after having recorded a few things. But I spent 3 years doing music production and recording and stuff, and I should have figured it out then, really, but nope.
I started to use some of that knowledge back when I used to stream a whole lot and would just wish that I could have a lot of things on just separate tracks just so I could isolate certain things out and like manage the levels and mix it properly. But yeah, just Hollywood kind of ruins you on a lot of things, like the Wilhelm scream. Like that's very prevalent in so many things that people just don't realize until you hear it. You're like, oh, Oh, now
Yeah.
that's just cheesy. Like
Yeah.
it's all over Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
all
yeah, yeah,
over
yeah.
every action movie.
It's even in the Star Wars audiobooks, man.
Okay, I think we're on O. Oh, you know what? You mentioned this in a recent Blaze. So, how do blind people order online?
It depends on. Well, Amazon is good. eBay is good. It depends on the accessibility of the website, and you know a lot about this, but people watching probably don't because, why would they? The best thing people can do if you're out there planning an e-commerce website is keep it simple and pay an actual blind person to have a quick look over your website. I'm available, reasonably cheap.
Making things simple on the web is already hard enough as it is without going like full brutalist. Apple does it probably the best. Like they simplify things down really, really easily, but they're just like e-commerce is not. E-commerce is easy. In theory, you're just trying to sell a thing, but people are hard. They want to know so much, but get presented with so little. So designing accessibility around that is difficult. Like, I currently contract out to a company to overlook their accessibility and design. So typically, like you start off with like low vision or vision-ish impaired that can still use the web with their eyes. It's just high contrast at one point. But when you go down to like screen readers and stuff, it becomes an even heavier problem of like, what do you prioritize on the screen and how do you do this? Because,
I know it's a pain.
every UI is different, and it'd be great if it could be standardized, but then like every site would look the same, and why shop at this site when you can shop at the site that you're already comfortable with? And then it just becomes a whole thing.
Yeah, I get that, but some things really do piss me off. And like until about 8 years ago, the RNIB website, which is the Royal National Institute for the Blind for Americans, their website wasn't really screen reader accessible. I mean, it was kind of. If you knew what you were doing and you knew how to invoke certain screen reader modes, you could buy something from them, but it should be better. Amazon was perfectly screen reader accessible by this point on the app and on the the web browse version, and it took 10 minutes to order a pack of playing cards from the RNIB. Do better, guys. This is what you're actually for. I phoned them up once. It was a pack of Braille playing cards, and I'd probably 10 minutes fumbled around on the website trying to get it to work. In the end, I phoned them up and I said, "Do you realize how bad the website is?" And they said, "Yeah, we've got people working on it, but you can just order over the phone." I'm like, "Well, then why have you got a fucking website? You don't." If you want people to phone up, then I appreciate that sighted people buy stuff from the RNIB, but surely their priority should be accessibility.
Among other things, yeah. That's kind of funny to me because it's like the equivalent of you going into a store and buying something. It's like, oh, it's out of stock, but it's available online. Like 99% of the time, it's like, yeah, I know. I wanted it today, and I was willing to pay the premium of going into a store where you had something shipped, paid somebody to bring it into your store, paid someone to stock it, paid someone to label it, and paid someone to put it out. So, like, gimme. Don't tell me to go online. Like, tell me where it is in another store.
I wish I could give a shout out, but I can't because I'll be doxing myself. But there is a brilliant little computer shop. 5 minutes walk from here. And when I did the video with Sean, and I closed off recording and then realized I didn't have enough storage to save the video. So I just had to keep the computer running and hope it wouldn't crash until the next day. So I could go in and buy a external hard drive. And I explained to him exactly what had happened. And he's like, "Yep, here's what you need. He even said, if you bring the laptop in, I'll do it. I'll transfer it over for you." And you just don't get that in big stores anymore, Maybe you do in America. You're more known for customer service than we are, I guess.
Well, it depends on the store. Like, I used to work for a very large electronics store nationally. I'm not going to name them, but you'll know them by the colors.
Was it Radio Shack? I won't.
Oh, God, no. No, Radio Shack has... it's been a while. Now, this was around the
text
time
me
I worked
later.
for... Yeah. But yeah, we could do that for you easily, and we'd be happy to do it for you with a smile or a fee. Oh my God, this was back when this is a little bit after I first started getting into PC building, and I didn't start out in the PC maintenance and customization and repair department. I was on the floor, and I saw someone just changing out some RAM. I'm like, oh, I didn't know we did that. And I'm like, yeah. $80. It's like,
whoa.
To change out 2 RAM sticks? He's like, yeah. Like, it's
Take
like 2 minutes worth of work.
Yeah,
like, you don't even have to be really that skilled, dude. Like, you just pop off the back panel and like, this was on a laptop back when laptops were more serviceable. Like, it's like 6 screws. So yeah, we're very customer service oriented here, but you got to pay for it.
When I used to do IT repair for a while, and I had a guy come to me. He's like, oh, do you do upgrades? So yeah. And he said, I want 32 gigs of RAM in this computer. I was like, okay, well, I'll find out the price for the RAM, and I'm not going to charge you much to fit it. And he bought in this computer, and it was running Windows 2000. And I said, I don't think the board's going to support 32 gigs of RAM. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm telling you now, it's not. If you want that much RAM, the cheapest way you can do it is buy a new computer. And he's like, oh, you're just trying to sell me a new computer, blah, blah. I said, you take this anywhere. There is no way. And I checked in the end. I fired it up, and we looked up the maximum capacity for the RAM for the board, and I think it was 8 gigabytes. So look, I appreciate that you want more RAM, but that's the amount of RAM you can have. Or you can buy a new board. But by the time, but at that point, you might as well just buy a new computer. So don't buy it from me if you don't want to, but I'm telling you, this is the cheapest way.
A lot of folks just don't realize like computers and computer parts have a very low margin on them. Like system integrators, folks that just build PCs and just sell them, it's a very low margin. Like, yeah, at most, if it's reputable, they would charge like $150 for the labor of putting it all together, because the cost of everything is actually like pretty high. It's not that much more marked up than normal. So like a motherboard, like a good motherboard these days is like what, $110. I mean, you can always get a second hand, but why would you if you wanted a brand new build?
Yeah, it's not worth it,
right? And if you wanted to swap out for another board that can handle the capacity of your RAM, that you're looking at a lot of things like compatibility issues, like how many of these boards will take the processor that you have that support the amount of RAM that you want. Did you want current or next gen RAM?
That was the other thing as well. It was running one of the old Pentium 4s.
Oh.
I was surprised it would run Windows 2000, to be honest. Like, a new board, your hard drive isn't going to hook up to this, Well, it might.
That was
just
even before SATA, right? That was still SATA. That's back when you had to actually set like master and slave drives.
Yeah, jumpers. I've got a huge pot of jumpers in my workshop, and I want to get rid of them.
Why?
One day, I've got so many old computers in the loft at my mum's house, and I know there's stuff on them that one day I'll have time to get back. One day I will need a jumper. Probably won't need 20 or 30. There's probably 60 or 70 in that little pot, but I'll need one day.
Dave, you just need a copper wire and some plastic. Like, don't keep a box of jumpers, man. Don't send it to the waste either. Like get it recycled, but still. Like every time I buy like a new power supply or something, like for some reason I still get Molex connectors and I send it immediately to like electronics recycling. It's like, what the fuck do I need this for? But man, Pentium 4, like that was well before I was still into building PCs. And even I remember like the pain of jumping to right. Like is it my hard drive that's the master, or like the CD drive? Will it work this way? Can I have two masters?
No, you can't. I did that once. Two hard drives on master on the same IDE ribbon cable, and Windows just pulled the file it got first from each hard drive.
Yep.
And it just completely destroyed the Windows installation.
No. Yeah, like the best way that like the person that taught me how to build PCs and like teach me kind of like the very basics of how things talk to each other. It's like, if you want this to work, you have to think about it in terms of like lane capacity. So if you had two trucks that are the same width and the same length on the same highway, can they both fit together on the same lane? No. Then why are you trying to do that? It ain't gonna work.
It got a little bit easier when cable select became a thing.
It got a lot easier when NVMe came along, dude. You just like plug and play. No cables necessary. Just stick that sucker right in like a cartridge.
I suspect there is a possibility we may be boring people.
Right. Okay, let's go on to the P's.
We can have this conversation later.
Sorry, I'm in the mode of like I'm drinking with a buddy at a bar.
Yeah, me too. But I just remembered what we were doing, and I was like, the majority of people probably don't care.
Maybe they do. We might have some Linus Tech Tips people out there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Me too. There's definitely some nerds back there, but probably maybe 10%.
Maybe a little less. Reading the comments, maybe like it's like an offshoot of a standard deviant.
I'll tell you what though, I'm up for doing just like some random tech talk thing at some point. I'll go to my storage and pick up some of my old vintage gear. I've got a Commodore 64 kicking around, and we'll show that. It'd be good.
Well, might be a good way to get Danny in that basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, ZX Spectrum in there somewhere.
I know I've got one. I keep meaning to send it to Danny. He gave me his address, and I was like, I don't want this, and he will actually use it. It's just, it's still in the box. I picked up a new power supply for it last year, and I keep meaning to send it to him, and not. But he will actually get genuine usage out of it, and it's just gathering dust. I must remember to send it.
I promise we're going to move on to the P's. But so Kevin had been working on a laptop for a long time, and one of the folks that we talked to, they had an ITX case and power supply, like an SFX power supply that was like for that case.
Yeah, I'm nodding.
And they're like, it's just a small power supply. It's like 750 watts, like tiny and long. It's like, I can send this to you. He was like, oh, okay, but like I have nothing else to build a computer. I have so many parts in my garage from previous builds that's just like I can cobble together like a few different things to make like a pretty good build for you. So I promised him, I'm like, I'll send you a board, a CPU, a GPU, all the cables that you would need, a power. You don't need a power supply. Like I sent him, I promised that I'd send him a bunch of stuff. It took me like 3 months to get it out of my house and off to him.
Yeah, but you can't moan when it's free,
Especially when you have kids.
Yeah.
When you're working and you have kids, this is harder.
Yeah, people, if you haven't got a child, one of the most annoying things I thought was the most annoying thing when I didn't have kids was when parents said, if you haven't got a child, you don't know what you're talking about. And now I get it.
Yep. Like, you are working off of minimal sleep. You are constantly having a schedule change, and you have to work on a nap schedule. And there are more things combined. Like, it's just, and they get sick so much.
Especially when they go off and meet the other children for the first time.
Oh my God. And it's not like you want to stop it from happening. You want them to make friends. You want them to socialize and whatnot. It's just...
Sending a kid off to their first play day in a hazmat suit, because that won't get them bullied.
Oh my God. If I could only...
I've just finished this. I'm holding up the beer. I'm turning it slowly because I have no idea which way around the label is. So if anybody wants to see it, I would highly recommend. It's 5%. It is dry lager, and it's very crisp. I brought it over here chilled. I don't yet have a fridge. Yes, would highly recommend.
Mate, I finished mine like a while ago. I'm on my second one.
Yeah, I've got another one under the counter. I'm just thinking.
All right, let's move on to the P's that I'm gonna make a little selfish here. Dave, how do blind people play video games?
I became. My dad always used to get the latest consoles when they came out theoretically for all of us, but you know, there wasn't a great deal I could do with those until the Nintendo Wii came out. Now, Wii Sports, the original Wii Sports, every game on there you can play by timing and audio. Like, there's a video of me on an old hard drive somewhere bowling a 300 on Wii Sports bowling whilst not being in the room, just listening to the beeps and taps coming out of the controller, and downing, I think it's 4 pints through the game. Tennis as well. If you listen for the bounce, you can play Wii Sports tennis. Golf is a little harder, but yeah, every game on Wii Sports, and that was a game changer for me because it sort of opened up a social aspect that I never really had before, and that was gaming with my brethren. But the Xbox and the PlayStation now have screen reader software, I hear. We have an Xbox 360, I think, and a PlayStation 3. I haven't tried out any of the screen reader software, but I know there are blind gamers out there who get by with screen reader software and really good headphones. There was a PC game called, it was one of the Star Wars, just a Star Wars POV shooter that if you played with headphones, you could do pretty well from that, just because the 3D audio was quite good. I mean, this was a game from, I think I got it in 1998. So to have reasonable stereo audio back then was good. What was it called? I think it was called Mysteries of the Sith. I used to play that quite a lot, but again, any game with decent audio, you can kind of, not any game, but some games with decent audio, you can kind of get a bit of enjoyment out of. But gaming isn't really my thing. But yeah, there are blind gamers. Maybe I'll try and find one and get them to come on the channel and talk about it. But that's pretty much my knowledge of gaming whilst blind. I hope that helps.
No, it really does bring a lot of things in, because I play a considerable amount of games, and the one game that I play, like the one that I have like the most hours in, casual players like don't know like how very sound dependent it actually is. And like I have a nice set of headphones, and I for the first time played that game again like a few weeks ago, and yeah, no, it makes a huge difference. You gain like a tremendous amount of advantage just having better audio. So games that build it in, I could actually see it like working out for the blind. Not this particular game, but games in general.
There are some specific audio games for the iPhone as well.
Oh.
Which work just on audio. So you have screen gestures. I'm just trying to think. There's a couple I've played. I can't remember now, but they're quite involved games, and they're just on audio and the sensors in the iPhone. But the problem I have is if I start playing a game, I will never do anything else. So I need to not game. Again, when we got the Nintendo Wii, I stayed up for 36 hours perfecting the bowling so I could bowl a 300. The thing is, when you first, I don't know, you probably, did you have a Nintendo Wii?
I did.
Yeah?
I've had every Nintendo generation up until the Wii U, because I skipped that one, and I have a Switch and a Switch OLED.
How did you feel after the first weekend of playing nothing but the Nintendo Wii?
You know,
physically?
I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna sound bad, but like my forearms were very tired, and and like it's the exact same kind of strain that I had when I figured something else out when I was like 13 years old. All right, let's see. Okay, so that was P. Sorry, I closed out of that window because I was looking at an email. All right, how do blind people cue? So the cues don't really have a good one. Yeah, because it's like, how do blind people read the Quran, see Quora, quit wiping, qualify for Medicaid? I don't think that you would know that. We might just need to skip Q.
Yeah, fair enough.
And we're on R. Well, okay. Well, you were a musician. This is actually really relevant. How do blind people read sheet music?
Okay, sheet music does exist in Braille. I can't read it. I never learned music. Such as I can play, I learned to play by ear. I'm speculating here, but if you're playing the piano and your sheet music is in Braille, you're going to struggle to read as you play. So I'm guessing you would have to memorize your sheet music and then play. But theoretically, sheet music is available in Braille. So
unless you were a guy and you were just very used to working the keys one-handed.
Yeah. I suppose you could learn to read the Braille with your feet too, or I bet that's a thing. I bet someone out there can read Braille with their feet.
Man, if someone can play Dark Souls on bananas, someone can read Braille with their toes. Just that has to be a thing.
I'll look that up and I'll mention it next time.
Yeah, someone just basically Dark Souls is probably it innovated the get good mentality because it's just very, very, very difficult, and someone basically just mapped all the keys to a controller off of bananas and beat the game that way. Because
as you would.
Why not?
So I swear some people have too much time. I have a friend who sends me, where people go through everybody's speeches. It's usually like a politician, and then they'll do like a song or a rap out of just single cut words. And sometimes they're really good, but every time I hear one, I'm like, you need to go outside.
Touch grass, my dude.
Have you seen the guy who does like the disk drive things where he tunes all the disk drive motors?
No. Is that a thing?
Yeah, like old floppy disk drive motors. And
I thought it was like old hard disk drive motors that actually spun. What?
I think it's all different drive stuff, and he's rewritten the like internal firmware that drives the motor speeds so that he can alter the pitches rather than a certain speed on a hard drive will resonate to a certain pitch, obviously. So like he's written stuff like whole songs played out on like spinning disk drive motors.
There's a guy called Mr. Solid Snake 745 and the video that I'm looking at is floppy drive music.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the guy.
Oh, this is going to be so fun. That is so cool.
Can you stick a little clip in there?
Oh yeah. I 1000% I am. If we're on S, okay. Probably less relevant these days, but probably you've had to do this in the past. But how do blind people sign documents?
Ever since I was a kid, or from the first time I had to sign something, I just came up with a squiggle that I could do over and over again. Everyone who's seen my signature can forge it, but the bank know I'm blind and they know I don't sign stuff. So, and I'm also in a fortunate position where I can go to my local branch and everyone knows who I am by sight.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I go in, they say, "Hi, Mr. Page." One day my branch will close and I'll be screwed. But like if I sign something and it doesn't look exactly like the signature I've got on file, then it's not a big deal for them. They would also know if somebody came in and pretended to be me who wasn't. And like it would be easy for me to, if somebody else went into another branch and pretended to be me, it'd be very easy for me to prove that I have never, ever gone into another branch of my bank.
Well, at least the
Certainly
bank that I worked for, we can actually see the history. So a good teller or banker or bank manager or any employee of a physical branch could see that. So hopefully they would actually do their due diligence and do that properly.
I don't know whether it's all banks over here, but I know Nationwide will, if you ask them nicely, give you a stamp. So you go in, you ask for it, you give them a couple of copies of your signature, and they will turn that into a stamp for you, which obviously it's then your responsibility to keep that safe. But then if you ever have to sign anything, you just stamp. And that's a service they provide free of charge. They're also the first bank in the UK to provide, you know, those annoying card readers. I don't know, did you have them in America? Where for online banking, when that first became a thing, you have to put your card into this little, like a pocket calculator situation, type in your PIN, and then it gives you a verification code that you have to transfer over onto the computer for your online banking. Is that a thing in America?
I am so happy that you brought that up. That never became a thing in America, but I know exactly what you're talking about because in 2014, I started working at a startup whose employees, our entire engineering team outside of the front end team, was in Belgium. So I would get sent regularly to Belgium and I would see them do that and figure out what that was. And they're like, oh yeah, this is basically like every transaction that you have has like a serialized code that's unique every single time. And it looked like a pocket calculator that you just stuck your card into.
Yeah, that's the thing. But Nationwide created talking ones that you can plug headphones into.
Okay, so, there it is. I was like, wait a minute.
Actually, the new one, the latest one I have, has an external speaker as well. But the first one only had a headphones plug. And you put your card in, and it would talk you through what you needed to do. And then it would, the new one even has Braille on the buttons. It would talk you through what you needed to do and then read the number out to you as many times as you needed to transfer it over.
Ah, that's cool. Yeah.
I sense we have drifted off topic.
Oh, we have. You had talked about it in the past, and so has Simon, but like the way that the American like credit card or just like card system is still archaic. Like we regularly still like send our waiters off with our card like sight unseen. It's still a thing here.
When I was over there, he was like, I'm just gonna take your card. I'm like, no, you're not.
Was that your American accent, bud? I like how you had to like really emphasize the R there.
I don't know where I'm from. It's just
that was awesome.
It's like the transatlantic British accent. Yeah.
Oh God! Like after I found out what that was, and I started, I can't watch like the early Star Wars anymore. Like I love it, but like when Leia talks,
it's so alien.
This is, oh man,
that's not a real accent.
I know.
But yeah, since Chip and Pin came out I looked it up for the Brain Blaze thing, but I think it was 2006. It became a thing in the UK. The banks were like, do not give anyone your card. If you give anyone your card and you get scammed, that is your fault, not ours. And we were all like, yeah, fair enough. There's no reason to give anyone your card. And in America, they're like, yeah, we're just going to walk off with your card. No, that's not a thing. I'll come with you to the register.
We've been doing it for so long. I remember working for the bank and I actually had people from the UK ask to be able to stick their card into a chip reader. I'm like, oh, you're going to have to swipe that. And they looked at me like I was 5. No, I don't. Like, yeah, you do.
Card readers in the UK don't even have a swipe thing on anymore, you know?
Most of them don't out here. Actually, no, I lied. They all have the chip reader, but they all also have the mag reader for driver's licenses or personal IDs.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, because it can all go through the same system.
We don't have to identify ourselves everywhere we go all the time, so it's getting that way.
No, you just have the cameras.
Yeah.
That'll show you.
Yeah, but I think that's easier, you know.
I mean,
it gives you the illusion of freedom. You don't have to carry anything.
Yeah. it was just like very dystopian to me when I visited China for like the first time ever in my life when I got married to my wife. She's Chinese. And I was just like, my photos being taken fucking everywhere. I go to a theme park and my photos being taken.
Are you for real? I went to Disney and they took my fingerprints.
That's weird.
In Disney World, they're like, oh yeah, you have to scan your thumbprint onto our system. And I was like, yeah, when are you going to delete that?
The 7 years-ish. We can choose to keep it longer. Well, like, I thought it was just very, very, very dystopian. And then, like, I took my kid very recently, like a few months ago, to Disneyland. And we had our photos taken. And I was like, okay, we're there now. This sucks. But hey, we're Asian, so my child will be 2 for as long as possible. No matter what your photo says about my kid. It's a different one.
In the UK, kids travel on the bus until free until they're 5. My child is definitely not 5, but if I get on the bus, I will not pay unless the driver calls me out. I get on the bus and I say, "Oh, go and find a seat," and it will just like run off down the bus and find us seats, and then I've got a free bus pass anyway. See, but my wife's like, "Oh no, I'll pay." I'm just. And like twice the bus driver has gone, "How old's your child?" And then I've said how old, and they're like, "Yeah, you have to pay." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'll pay if you ask." I'm not volunteering my money.
Exactly. So, and when our kid was first born, we're like, oh, she can get into so many places for free, but it's a lockdown, so we can't really go anywhere. And I don't think my kid's genetics knows that we're Asian because she's tall. She's really tall. She can't pass for 2. She can't even pass for 4, and she's not even 4 yet. When we first walked into the gates at Disneyland, we had early entry because we stayed at a property that was attached to Disneyland.
Stayed on site.
Like a Disney. Yeah, we stayed on site. So it was an old lady, like maybe in her like early 70s. She looks at my daughter. She's like, "How old's your child?" My wife looks at me. I'm like, "She's 2." Like my face didn't change. I'm like, she's 2 years old. And she calls someone else over and like she tries to whisper it, but I hear it. And it's like, they said that child's 2. I don't know. The other person is just as old as she. She's like, she looks at me, she looks at my wife, she looks at my kid again. She looks at me, she looks at my wife, and she goes, "How old's your child?" My daughter, without skipping, because I'm 2 at Disneyland. Because we've been telling her, like, if anyone asks you, you're 2, but only say that at Disneyland. So my kid's like, "I'm 2 at Disneyland." And we're like, "Oh, no, it's her birthday. That's why she's saying it that way. It's her birthday. That's what we're taking her to Disney."
She's only just 2.
Only at Disney. Okay, it is almost 3 p.m. my time, which means it's getting really late for you. So I think we have time for like 2 more letters before you should probably like.
Yeah, let's do 2 more. We'll make it a 3-parter. Why not?
All right, good.
If you're up for that, make it a little mini series. It'd be good. Yeah?
Oh, I'm so up for that. A lot of these are like along the same theme, like how do blind people tell money apart? But this is actually a good one because I think I know the thought process behind it. And it's very similar to how blind people sleep. It's how do blind people tell time? So like think back to like the mid 90s for you.
Again, that depends. I mean, seriously, I usually just ask Alexa or Siri, or I just pick my phone up and press the power button and it will tell me the time. And my phone's all the way over there, so I can't do that. They do have tactile watches, which actually were invented for snipers, I found out fairly recently. It's basically just a normal 12-hour, hand, analog, that's the word I'm looking for. It's just an analog watch, but you press a little button and the screen flips up and you have the numbers represented with dots around the outside. So the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9 have 2 dots, and the other numbers just have a single. And then you can feel where the hands are, and so you can work out the time. But they weren't invented for the blind, they were invented for snipers, so that you didn't have to illuminate your watch and give your position away, but they were adapted for the blind.
This is so cool. I literally Googled it just now. It is so cool.
I love that you're fact checking my anecdotes. That's fantastic.
No, I'm not fact checking. I'm just genuinely like, what do these fucking look like, dude? That is awesome. I mean, it makes sense. it's a little bit concerning that it's like, oh, we made these for, like people that kill people instead of like, focusing on the disabled, but still, like they get it.
I have one actually, one of the sniper models that a friend of mine who collects watches gave me, and it's one of the like auto wind ones. So as you move, it winds it up.
Oh yeah. Kinetic movement watches, like Japanese winding. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I don't wear it because I'm not wearing a watch today, but I usually wear an Apple Watch, which will tell you the time. Actually, the Apple Watch has a thing where you can set it up so if you make a hand gesture, like clench your hand 3 times, it will buzz the time out to you and haptic feedback on your wrist. So you can check the time without being rude.
I didn't know that. I've got an Apple Watch. That's dope. Oh, you probably don't know this. We're going to move on to the next letter. But apparently Simon wears Patek Philippe. And
oh, yeah.
People call out in the comments all the time. Dude, I never focus on his hands. Like, how do you people catch this?
Yeah, watch.
Because I think it's the same model I do. But I didn't buy mine. That was a wedding gift.
I don't get it. A friend of mine, a watch collector friend of mine, says that after a certain price, it's not getting any technically better. And that price is surprisingly low. I think he said it's like sort of $200, $300. Between $200 and $1 million, you're not getting a better watch. It's just about the bling and the badge.
Yep. That's all it is. It's like a very, very expensive wine. It's like, you're not going to taste that difference. If anything, it's going to start tasting worse. I was really big into watches when I was a kid, just because James Bond was really big and he had like really cool gadgets and shit. But
oh yeah, I get that.
When I turned 16 or something, I figured out that my watch can't make someone like explode over there.
Yeah, if I could do that, if that worked, I'd buy all sorts of watches. But
yeah, I think my mom put it best. My mom always got me watches, the ones that I always wanted. But after a certain point, I just stopped. Especially after she told me, clocks, watches, and things that tell time just tell you, like, it's just counting down, like, the time that you're gonna die. So, like, it's good for a reference point of, like, where you need to be. But, like, it's just counting down when you're gonna die. That's a good point, Mom. That's a very good point. It's not so much a fashion statement anymore. Thank you. Okay, I think this will be the last one for us then. Okay, I'm gonna try to go for the more pragmatic one. How do blind people shake hands? Because I'm not going to ask you how you can see the color red.
I can't. Handshaking is interesting. You rely a lot. You rely a lot on the other person. Okay. What's actually more of a problem is if 2 blind people have to shake hands. I lived with another blind guy for a while, for reasons that I will tell, but I need to confirm with him that it's okay to tell the story because it is a good story. It's like,
let me know and I'll cut it out or leave it in.
No, I'd need to get back in touch with him. I'll tell it in the next part because it'll take me a while to get in touch with him. But like shaking hands with someone else who can't see, or even because we both smoked then, just like trying to pass stuff to each other, pass a lighter or something that you might be smoking to each other, that can be entertaining. But shaking hands...
I like how you had to qualify something that we're smoking.
It's not legal in the UK. I don't know. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on what I may or may not have smoked in my youth, allegedly. As a blind person shaking hands, you're relying on the other person. So you put your hand out in the sort of standard handshaking position and you just kind of have to wait.
So if it's 2 blind people, like I imagine that like by sound, you can kind of tell how far away they are.
Yeah, roughly.
Roughly what direction they're facing. Do you like try to figure out like where their like shoulder is and like work your way from there, or?
You kind of, you can usually work it out roughly, but it's usually like a forearm grab, slide into a handshake situation, you know?
Right. It's like the awkward kind of handshake you have when someone like is trying to fist bump you and then you go for a handshake and then like you switch around and then like you try to do a high five and like they switch it up and it's like you reach up with your other hand, you grab theirs and you just like bring it to your hand and just shake it. It's
more awkward because I don't always have a stick, a white stick. My little boy calls it my bat, which is great. It's now my bat in my house. So when we're going out, my son will be like, "Don't forget your bat," which makes me sound like much more violent and cool than I actually am. But
Like belong in an episode of Walking Dead there, bud.
I've forgotten what I was going to say. See, this is what happens. I have 2 beers, handshakes. Right. So sometimes I don't have my stick, or I'll have it clipped to my belt, and people don't immediately realize. So if I'm talking to somebody, or if someone comes to the door, and you talk to them for a while, and then they'll go for the handshake, and I just stand there like. So people are often left hanging because I don't know they put their hand out for a handshake. So I'm just like, okay, I'll see you later. Turn away. I'm lucky now that in my area, the regular people who deliver parcels know I can't see. But that's another thing as well. If a stranger knocks on the door and you open the door, I'll just wait for that person to speak. So I've opened the door and they're waiting for me to say hello. But I don't know if there's anyone there because my dogs bark if like a carrier bag blows past in the wind. So to prevent myself from opening the door and saying hello to thin air 10 or 12 times a day, I'll just wait. And so a couple of times, sometimes people won't say anything for like 10 seconds. So I'll just shut the door. Not knowing that there was someone there. And then like if they're brave, they'll knock again and they'll be like, hello? Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. And then I'll say, I can't see. And then they get it. But food delivery people, now when I answer the door, if I get like Just Eat or Uber Eat, as soon as I answer the door, I go like, I'm blind, and like, the 2 fingers point at my eyes. I can't see, and then because otherwise I'm just kind of groping around for a bag of food. It's really awkward.
Warm summer days are in no short supply right now for me, so it'll be a very welcome present when it does come in through the post.
It's been raining for the last 2 days here. We've had summer.
I mean, it is the UK, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you get a few hot days. Sometimes I have to turn on the air conditioning and then...
Oh, what, for like 7 whole days out of 365?
Yeah, it's still worth having though.
Oh yeah, no. 100%.
It's not a thing though, really, in the UK. Houses aren't built with air conditioning.
Which is insane to me. I'm originally from where you cannot survive without air conditioning. And when I moved out to California, damn near 20 years ago now, it blew my mind. There were houses out here without air conditioning. But, you know, even then things were not as hot as they are currently.
Yeah, well, I've only been to Florida, but whenever I go, I'm the quintessential British person running between air-conditioned buildings and sweating.
All right, so before we actually begin, do you want to fill some folks in about that story you told on Brain Blaze where you went out to go get a paper and got accosted by some woman and then yelled at by the paperman?
Well, it's two separate stories, kind of. I got yelled at because I asked for a copy. I got yelled at by the guy in the shop because I asked for a copy of the Sun newspaper on the Wirral, which is the Liverpool area. And as I explained in the episode of Brain Blaze, the Sun has been boycotted there because of the basic lies they told about the Hillsborough disaster. But the woman who was shouting at me because she didn't think that blind people should be out and about with children on their own. I kind of, when I told the story in Brain Blaze, I thought that was self-explanatory, but I've had, I don't know, probably 30 or 40 different people ask me. Danny asked me, Lorelei asked me, I think you asked me, Simon didn't get it when he read it, so that's my bad. I really thought it was self-explanatory, but no.
I did not ask you for a clarification because I knew I would be doing it on this show. Oh, God, my dogs. So I'm just going to walk you through what I thought happened, because the way that it was written, or at least the way that Simon had read it, it seemed like you strapped your kid in, walked out of the house, and I was expecting something. Like maybe you had forgot to put on shorts, or maybe you didn't strap your kid into your chest right or something, and that's why the woman was yelling at you. Not that she thought that blind people should not be allowed outside with their children independently. Like that just makes the story so much worse.
No, that was the problem she had. I'm sorry for keeping everybody waiting so long. As I said, when I wrote it, I thought it was self-explanatory, but definitely wasn't.
I don't say sorry for that. Don't apologize. Just building up good content, man.
It gave us something to talk about at the beginning.
Oh, we were always gonna have something to talk about. I've got a case full of beer, and so do you. So I think we'll be fine.
Tell you what, that the fluff sort of gives you the aftertaste of rhubarb crumble. It's very nice.
Ooh.
I didn't think I'd like it, but
Is it made with rhubarb?
I don't think it is.
Are you tasting notes of rhubarb?
Yeah. Which I've become a connoisseur.
Maybe
Since the
you
last
maybe you can
episode.
put it up to your ear and listen for notes of something else.
It'd be drowned out by the sound of the eclipse.
All right. We'll mark it here.
One day I will do merch, and there will be a "Did you hear the eclipse?" T-shirt.
I'll design it for you.
Awesome.
I can do that just fine. All right. So let's pop onto the T's of our can't talk. I already have it preloaded here. So Dave, there's a lot in the T's, so I'm gonna have you choose. So I'll read off a list. All right. How do blind people text, tell time, which we've already covered, type, think, tell money apart, which has already been done, take notes, travel, take tests, text on iPhone? Don't know why it's so specific, but
I think it's probably because of the touchscreen element.
I mean, an Android is touchscreen too.
Yeah, but it's the same process. Android ripped off VoiceOver. Well, they tried to. It's not. What's it called? TalkBack on Android. Not quite as good, but it's getting there. They copy a few more Apple features, and it'll be there.
It's cyclical, isn't it? Because back in 2008, I want to say, when the Nexus 1 first launched, I sold my iPhone immediately and got it. I can't remember if it's 08 or 09, but I just remembered when Google said that they were going to launch their first phone, and it wasn't going to be like HTC or Motorola or anything. I sold my iPhone immediately. I went out, I sold it for like $700. Bought that thing right away, and it innovated a lot of stuff. Like, there was no apps on the home screen that didn't need to be there. You had an app drawer. Apple has its own little thing now where you can hide all the apps on the home screen. The pull down top nav for notifications and such. I really miss my fucking trackball though. That's never coming back. But now it's Android taking inspiration from Apple. See how long it takes before it cycles back around.
I don't know. Honestly, I think it's much of a muchness. I don't think there's anything really between the two operating systems. I just say that sort of stuff to annoy the Android people. I'm currently running the beta version of iOS 18. It's iOS 18? Whatever the latest one is, I've got the beta version running. And it's got a few nice things. They finally opened up the NFC chip a little bit. So instead of, if you want to add a card to the wallet, you don't have to scan it with the camera. You can just tap it on the phone, and it'll contact the card provider and set it up like that, which is pretty cool. But yes, we should probably answer some questions.
There's a last one on here, which it's just one of those things along the lines of, this is tactile. How do blind people take showers?
Okay.
So you have a list you can choose from. I can remind you of a few if you'd like.
We've covered travel. I've done a whole video about texting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Taking showers is kind of obvious, I would think.
Like, are your eyes open when you put shampoo in your hair? Like, a lot of my time spent in the showers is with my eyes closed.
Well, yeah, you'd get soap in your eyes, wouldn't you?
Exactly. Or a stream of water shooting into my eyes.
I think we've kind of we've covered if it means do you think in images and stuff for the thinking. We've covered that as well, haven't we?
We have. Under dreaming and imagination and such.
I'm not sure that T has one to offer us.
I don't know. Taking notes sounds rather interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'll run with that. When I first started writing, I was terrible at taking notes. I'm still terrible at taking notes, but I have a system that works for me. I basically have 2 Word documents open, the one I'm writing in, and then one where I collect notes. I don't know if this is the same for everybody, and if I see something I want to use later on a website, I just copy and paste it in there. Taking notes on like a day-to-day basis for things that aren't work related, I'll use the notes app in my phone or make a voice note. I only recently discovered that you can tell Siri to make a note, and it will. I didn't know that. So now I do that.
So when you were in school, say 13-year-old Dave, what was that like? Because I'm pretty sure tech at the time wasn't as robust.
There were Braille note takers around. I'm gonna do a video about that actually soon. I'm gonna do the history of blind tech. So from the original sort of punch set where you had to use a grid, a metal grid, and then poke each individual dot through onto the paper, through to the most modern piece of blind tech I can get hold of at the time. But yeah, I used it's called a Perkins Brailler, which is the standard Braille creation device, if you like, and it's the same 3 fingers on each hand combination, but it's I don't know how to describe it. It's like a really old typewriter. If you can put an image in, that's when you do the edit, that'd be great. But yeah, you just type on it and you've got an instant hard copy of Braille, the same as you would have with a typewriter. But that's what I used to use for most of my work at school. The only problem with those is they're really loud. So if you're in a lecture or a school lesson and you're trying to type notes, it can be quite distracting for anybody around you.
So what I see is it's just called the Perkins Brailler.
Perkins Brailler, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I will I'll throw it into the edit.
Yeah, it's kind of you can get like a labeler where you have the dial on and you turn it to the letter and squeeze it and it punches it onto the tape. Just like a normal old school labeler.
Man. I can just imagine the other students sitting near you. Just
yeah, I imagine it can be quite distracting if you're trying to listen.
All right, so that was T, so we're on U. Okay. U seems to be dominated by the word use, and we've covered a significant amount of these.
I thought it might be.
So I
let's see if we can find one we
have. The autocomplete. Yeah, no, there's nothing. There's like phones, computers, the internet, cell phones, iPhones, echolocation, social media, the bathroom, their phone, and money. So I think we can skip the use, unless you heard something compelling.
No, I don't think. I don't think there's anything there that we haven't already covered.
All right, then we are on to the V's. Vote seems to dominate this one too.
That's a good one.
How do blind people vote in India, South Africa, the UK, in elections, Australia? Though
We just had voting, so unfortunately, and I've got to be honest here, we just switched over in the UK to a system whereby when you vote, you have to take photo ID, and lots of people moaned about it, and I said moaning about it was ridiculous. How hard is it to turn up with photo ID? And it got to voting day, and I knew who I was going to vote for, and could I find my passport? Could I fuck?
This guy fucks. Am I right?
So unfortunately, I didn't vote this time. It wouldn't have made any difference. The people who I was going to vote for won by a not insignificant landslide. So they didn't really miss my vote, but it's just I was very critical of those who moaned about requiring photo ID, and then that was the reason I wasn't able to vote. But in the go on, sorry.
No, go ahead.
In the UK, you have a piece of card with lines in it. It's slotted lines, and on the right hand side, you have the Braille letters A, B, C, D, E for each. Each letter corresponds with a slot, which then, when the polling slip is underneath the overlay, each letter corresponds with the one of the parties, so, or the people you're voting for. So they tell you when you get there, A is what Labour, B is Lib Dems, whatever. So you line the piece of paper up, and then you put your tick or your cross in the relevant hole on the piece of card, and then it ends up in the right place on the voting slip.
I wonder how it's done in the US now. But I have a question. Is it not a common thing in the UK to constantly have your ID on you?
No, because we don't have to. You don't have to. Even if you're driving, you don't have to have your driving license.
Fuck off, really?
Really, no.
What's the point of having a license if you're not required to carry the damn thing?
They prefer it if you do, but if you get pulled over, I think this is still the case. But it certainly used to be, and I'm sure it is. If you get pulled over by the police, they'll just take your information, run it on the computer, and say, yes, this person has a license. And then you have like time to go to the police station and show them your license.
That sounds inefficient as
like
fuck. It's just a card.
But is it the law in the US that you have to have your license with you if you're driving a car? Yeah, because they say license and registration.
Yeah, it is actually the law. I don't know if it's federal for identification in general. It might be, but yeah, if you're driving, you have to have a license present on you.
But you have to possess a license in the UK, but you don't have to have it with you.
That's so bizarre to me. Sounds like such an inefficient way to do things. What's your name? Where do you live? You allowed to drive this thing? All right, let me go run the computer. Says someone at this address should have this kind of vehicle. Please go to the police station and present ID. Like, just show it.
They have the NPR camp. They have the number plate recognition in the police cars now, so they know who should be driving the car when they pull you over.
How do they verify without the identification, though? I mean, unless your picture shows up.
It might. I'm not sure. Maybe it does. They've got the pictures on file at the what would be the DMV. I should know what it's called in the UK, but I don't.
Does it begin with Royal?
No, it doesn't.
Because I imagine it'd be like the
Royal Driving Academy.
Well, I would think it was something like the Royal Motor Carriage Database for driving.
What is it? I can't remember.
What is the DMV called in the UK? The Driver and Vehicle Licensing
DVLA.
Agency.
It's the DVLA. That's what it is.
I'm moderately surprised that the word royal doesn't show up anywhere in there.
I had DMV stuck in my head because I've been reading the Kevin Mitnick book, and he hacked the DMV loads.
I mean, it's not
That's
hard
going to
to.
be a fun video. Watch out for that, guys.
I think the DMV is still working on XP. Okay. So that was V. So we're on W.
Yes, V for vote.
Yeah, we're on W
I
already.
mean, it's slightly shorter video this time.
Oh, fuck off. No. We can drink. We can drag this out. How do blind people W? Okay. I'm trying to filter out some stuff. Because the last result is amazing. How do blind people wipe their bum?
We've done this one already.
There's a theme
Not going
around
back to
blind
this.
people that our sighted companions are curious about. So we've established how you write, how you wipe, work, walk around, wake up. Right. That just happens.
Slowly.
Without the sun, you'll just stay in perpetual sleep.
Oh, sleep. What is sleep? I remember sleep.
I mean, as a parent, it's an old friend you've not called, talked to, or visited in a significant amount of time.
I went to a Green Day gig. I think I was about 18. At a place called Milton Keynes Bowl, and I stayed awake for 2.5 days for reasons, and then I slept for 48 hours. Like, went to sleep and woke up at pretty much exactly the same time 48 hours later.
Now, was this the gig that you went to in which you and your friends got pulled over and one of your friends happened to have been wearing flip-flops?
Yes. That's some memory.
I edited that
Yes,
video.
it was. We were coming back. We were coming back from Green Day. Yes,
Yeah.
that was that gig.
Yeah. And I believe what you had said was because that friend's father was a constable, he was already very well versed in the law to say, I can drive with my flip-flops on and you do not smell a very skunky smell coming from a car of 6-foot guys in a tiny Ford Focus.
One of those things was true. Yeah, it was. No, he's a driving instructor. Mike's dad's a driving instructor.
Okay.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry, Mike. Just
I can just bleep
Tell
out the
everyone
name,
about
don't
you.
worry. But yeah, no, I edited that video like, what, 4 months ago? 3-4 months ago, something like that.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but
It was a long time.
that story stuck out to me. Because everyone wears fucking flip-flops because you don't want to cover your entire foot when it's 124 out.
You shouldn't drive in flip flops, though. I get why. I get why it's frowned upon.
It's unsafe. I'm uncomfortable doing it. It's not comfortable for me to drive with flip-flops on. So there's a law against it. I get it. But
Yeah.
unless you want to talk about how you watch TV or movies, both of them show up. It's media, essentially, if you want to talk about that.
I guess there might be some people who don't know that audio description is a thing.
So you
again-
only limit yourself to David Attenborough media.
No, you know, they not have that on US TV. They must do.
Oh, we
If you're
definitely
watching
do.
TV, you can.
It's not a feature that I
pull up, yeah.
utilize, but yeah.
Well, no, there's no reason why you would. But yeah, it's on Disney Plus. We watch a lot of Disney Plus. There's a option in the audio menu. You switch on audio description, and it gives you a running commentary as to what's going on in the background, or what's going on that you can't work out from the dialogue.
So it must vary from movie to movie, right?
Oh yeah, it depends how much they pay. You get quality voice actors reading well-written stuff, or not.
Do they have the same thing for pornography?
Yes, they do.
I was being I was joking, but really?
Yeah, I didn't know either. A sighted friend of mine wondered the same thing. A sighted friend of mine wondered the same thing as you did, and I will shout you out, Franklin, because I know you're watching.
Sorry, Frank. I am not bleeping that out because that shit's funny.
James Franklin.
Poor Frank.
And I'm only doing this because he looked it up on my computer whilst we had a shared broadband connection that was being monitored.
What a dick,
So,
Frank. What'd you go and do that for, bud? Did you not have a cell phone you could do it on?
but yes, there is audio described pornography, but as most audio description is, it's described by a very British man.
Oh, that's a way to lose wood hard. Fast. She caresses her bosom. Oh, good lord.
But for the amusement factor, I recommend you check it out on your own time and on your own internet connection.
Luckily, I have my own. Gonna have to VPN into the UK. Oh my god. Okay. The W's yielded better than I thought.
I think there is some kind of fruit in this beer, because it's got like a sediment.
Can you do me a favor and hold the can up to the camera and rotate slowly? Because I might be able to grab a screen of it and read off, because rhubarb isn't one of those things that I think would just pop
to be
out
fair,
of nowhere.
you could just Google it.
Oh, that's true.
You could just Google it. It's from Heist Brewery, and it's called Fluff.
Oh, Fluff. That's the one we talked about last time. Where I was... Wait, was it Fluff?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Fuzz. Fuzz was the one I was thinking that sounded mostly like it'd be mold.
It might be called Fluff, and I'm sure it's Fluff.
Ice Brewery Co. It was a mental note for me to put this into the edit. So I do have to give a little bit of criticism. The site, while moderately okay, there is no mention of the brewery's name anywhere. While that's in the URL, it's always good practice to have the name of what you are on the site at the beginning. I mean, don't take a word of a professional designer or anything for the web, but...
I'll pass that along. Or Dan, if you're watching, that's for you.
Live beer menu. Live beer. Is it live beer like it's alive? As if there's active yeast in it? Sure. Or is it live as in this is the current selection?
I think probably current selection.
Okay. There's the stout.
Because you can't put live beer in cans.
You're not allowed to have active yeast in the UK for your beer?
Yeah, but you can't put live yeast in cans. It would explode.
Wouldn't it be the same thing if it's a glass bottle?
Yeah, usually if you have live beer, it's usually draft, no?
No, we have what I was drinking the last time or the time previous, I forget, but we have a few very high-end beers that have active yeast in it, and some of them come in cans and some of them come in bottles. Pliny the Elder and the Younger and Pliny for President all have active yeast. There is, oh my God, why am I forgetting the name of it? There's a brewery, I forget the name of it right now. Oh man, I'm gonna kill myself over this one, but they have a series of beers called the Enjoy By and Enjoy After, and those typically have active yeast in them still, and they're in cans.
Oh, fair enough. I stand corrected.
Fluff Sour Smoothie.
That's the fella.
They don't seem to have anything about the beer outside of the rating, how much it costs per pint, and the ABV.
Okay, well, I'll take some pictures of the cans when I get home, and I'll send them to you, and you can put them in.
As a web designer, there this leaves a lot wanting. Because I get it's a sour, but what kind of sour is it? What's in there? What do I take notes of? Is there rhubarb? maybe it's the Bay
rhubarb,
Area snobby beer drinker in me.
It's certainly not something you would expect, on draft or. It doesn't taste like any beer I've tasted before, but it is very nice. It sort of in its own field, if you will.
Oh my God. My wife and I actually went to it's not a brewery. It's called a cafe, but it's kind of like a tap house last weekend. And they had a draft there that I never thought would be there. They're called Good Karma Cafe. It's a vegan cafe. The reason why we wanted to go is because they have this great Buddha bun that my wife loves. It's just basically a Chinese pork bun, but it's done vegan style. But they have an insane selection of beers.
Vegan style?
Say what?
How do you do pork vegan style?
I don't fucking know. Not a vegan?
That doesn't sound like a thing.
It is. My wife went vegan for a little bit there in the early 2012s. And being the supportive boyfriend at the time, I gave my fair share of support. And, just went to McDonald's after and shit. But we found Good Karma Cafe and we still continually go to the day. But they have this beer called the Sukaba by Firestone Walker. That is usually vintaged and you buy them in bottles at stores. You never find that shit on tap. And they have it there from 2019. The vintage is 2019. So it's 2024 now. So the damn thing has sat around for a little bit there, just getting good. And I got myself, it wasn't even 8 ounces. It was 4 ounces for $10. But it was good. So I think at that point it was around 14% alcohol. But it was good.
Yeah, that's essentially wine.
Oh, it's better than wine, sir. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, you were saying that.
The cost of a high-end beer outclasses the cost of a high-end wine volume-wise. It's insane. It was so good, though. Wife is currently on a health kick, so she very seldom drinks these days, and she had a sip of mine and said, get your ass back up to the bar and get me one, please. This is too good to pass up. Because Sukabas are really good. And if you live anywhere in California and have access to Firestone Walker, fucking go get it. It's so good. It's basically abacus spelled backwards. They had to do that because of a copyright thing. But it's so good. Ugh, kind of want one now.
Did you not bring any back with you?
Couldn't. It was only on
Was it
tap.
draft only?
It's not like I can have them poured into a container and cap it off for me. I think you have to be a brewery to be able to pour into a growler or some sort of container and cap it off to have patrons bring home. If you're just a bar or something, you can't do that.
In the UK, you can't. There's two kinds of license you can have: on-premises license or on and off-premises, or just there's three. Off-premises for consumption. Off-premises is just for shops. On the premises, pubs, and on and off the premises means you can sell beer to be drank at the pub or for people to take away.
God damn.
And the license, the on and off license says licensed to sell intoxicating beverages for consumption both on and off the premises.
That is the most UK way to describe something.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you'd like that because you lost out on not having the royal driving.
I'm still disappointed about that.
I'd give you that for your fix of Britishness.
I'll just go have a Boddington's. I went out and grabbed I think 16 cans the other day because I was like, man, I haven't had one of these in a few years. I need to fulfill my cream soda of beer kick. Okay, I believe we're on
W.
We had W.
Yes.
We're on X.
Did we? What was W?
Watch
did we
media.
have W or did we?
That's how we found out
did,
about David Attenborough described porn.
So what's X gonna be?
Nothing. There is no autocomplete for X.
Huh. Okay then. Wildcard me. Ask me a question you've always wanted to know the answer to.
Huh. It's gonna take a minute.
And this is where people find out that we definitely don't practice this stuff. If there was any
if there was any inclination that we actually rehearsed this shit. Oh, for anyone that ever comments on Simon's channels, oh, you absolutely had to have read the script beforehand and have canned reactions. I fucking no. Okay, I go through so much of his foot. Fucking no. I'm surprised he actually reads anything beforehand.
Oh no, you can tell. I get it because the editors do such a good job, especially with Brainblaze and stuff. It looks like he might have read it before, but unless you've seen the if you've seen the unedited copies, then you can tell.
I've been.
Fuck! I thought my laptop had turned off then.
I had a small inclination at one point in time to shoot an email off to Simon and ask him, "Hey, we might could do like some kind of uncut cut of certain moments that I had to take out because it's just funny." What do I want to ask a blind person?
They really are, but I can't. Obviously, can't mention them because they're not for public consumption. But some of them are great.
I mean, okay, so I want to say well more than 2/3 of the shit that I cut out are not explicit or are not things that cannot be consumed. It's just for timing and flow, and also for the word I wanted to use. Taste?
Actually, to be fair, the best bits get left in.
Yeah, well, for the most part.
His best fuck ups get left in.
Oh, fuck yeah. Typically, it's long stretches of pauses or throat clears,
Scrolling.
coughs, things like that.
Teleprompter scrolling.
Oh,
It's funny when it's funny when he has to scroll back up down from the top once, but when he does it 4 times in an episode,
I'll tell you this,
don't
it is
see
a
that.
fucking blessing that he doesn't watch a lot of Blazes because one of my first Blazes that I edited, he literally looks in the camera and goes, "Oh, just cut all this out. Okay, we don't need it. Just move on." And I didn't. because it was too funny. Because he said in previous places before I started editing that he might wait like a year or so, and it's like he remembers everything that goes on in his recordings. So I just said, fuck this, I'm gonna meme the shit out of this, and just left it in there.
Well, yeah, Danny proofs them, so.
Well, I don't think Danny watches the raw edit though.
No, he watches the proofs before they get edited. Danny watches them, so he's in charge of what goes live, basically.
Yeah. But he doesn't watch the raw at all, so he wouldn't know that Simon said to cut it out.
No.
No one does. Man, I don't even know what to ask you, because like I've never been that curious, I guess. Although
Also, we've known each other for 2 years. You've probably asked me already.
fuck all, has it been 2 years?
Yeah. How long have you been doing Brain Blaze? No, I knew you before.
Yeah,
then.
you knew me
I met
well
you through
beforehand.
Discord, yeah. On the when the original podcast was going to be a thing. That's when I met you.
Motherfuck, has it been 2 years? Jesus. Fuck, that's...
Maybe not 2 years, but it's been a long time.
Makes me feel a little bit older.
I can tell you because on my Twitter, I have a message inviting me to the first meeting that you had about the podcast.
Oh, right.
I'm just looking that up quick.
Yeah, do your thing.
2023, September 2023.
Okay.
So not 2 years.
Almost a year. But we talked considerably since then. Okay. Man. What am I curious about a blind person? I mean, have you ever driven a car? And how the fuck did you do that?
Yes. I have driven. I think there are a few vehicles that I haven't driven.
What?
Yeah, I grew up with like sort of stereotypical biker friends, and
Yeah, you had some
guys
Hells
used to
Angels
do-
friends.
yeah, and guys who used to do like banger racing. So I've driven loads of cars. Basically, in the have you seen Hear No Evil, See No Evil?
No, I haven't.
It's Richard Pryor and check it out. It's great. It's about a deaf guy and a blind guy, and well, pretty much every stereotypical hilariousness you can think of. It's really good. It's a terrible film, but it's very funny. Like there's a bit in it where the deaf guy is rescuing the lady of the film, and he breaks the glass to get in to rescue her, and the alarm system's blaring away, and he puts his hand up and goes shh, because he's broken the glass. She said, "There is an alarm." It's a great movie, but yeah, he ends up driving in that, the blind guy. But so, and the deaf guy saying left, right. So, but yeah, basically, I've driven like that. Friends who were brave enough to let me drive their cars. Sometimes on private land, sometimes on very quiet roads, and the same with motorbikes. I've driven vans, trucks. Never driven a tractor, I don't think.
Motorcycle?
I've even driven
Motorcycle? Because you don't really got it.
Yeah, loads.
Huh?
I've driven more motorbikes than cars.
Huh?
Harleys, R1. I've driven an R1. Honda Goldwing. I've driven some nice bikes.
You ever had your hands behind a Gixxer? GXR? A GXR?
No.
Okay. A blind person on a crotch rocket, no offense to you, does not sound like a very appealing time for anybody involved. Because you go fast.
The R1 was quite scary.
Yeah.
Fun though. Well, I'm a responsible member of the community now. I have a child and a wife. I'm not allowed to kill myself in motoring accidents.
Man, neither am I. I told my wife when we first met.
Wives can be so unreasonable.
Well, I told my wife when we first met that one of the things I wanted to have when I could afford to have more than one vehicle was a motorcycle. She said no right off the bat, and we weren't even dating yet. And when we were dating, I'd mention it again, and that was another no. And when we got married, it was finally cemented that it was not going to happen. So along came a child, and those dreams are just gone. Because now I don't want to be reckless.
Retire one day. When you retire, when you're in your late 60s, early 70s, you can get yourself a Harley and
fucking hell, those days are coming faster and faster. Fuck all, I'm
yep.
Almost 40.
Yeah, I try not to remember how old I am. I have to check. And that's the problem. When you realize, and this is a tech thing kind of, is you realize how old you are when you have to scroll down that fucking date of birth list.
Fucking thing, dude. So I ever since I became a developer, tabbing through, hitting arrow keys and whatnot are mainly how I navigate. I don't generally use my mouse if I don't have to, because it's just faster not to take your hands off the keyboard.
Yeah. People don't get that.
I mean, typically I would just tab over to that drop down and just hit an 8 because it'll just go to 1980s. But occasionally on the phone, you can't do that. So you have to scroll every time. I'm just thinking, fucking hell, how far do I have to go? Assholes born in the 20s. They're 21 now. 24.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be in the supermarket in local Tesco, and there'll be people in front of me who get ID'd, and I'm always so shocked at how recently 18-year-olds were born. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes so much sense.
Kids who,
because the math works out, and I just think that wasn't that long ago. It was.
There are kids who were born after I left school who are allowed to drink alcohol now. And that's depressing.
I don't like thinking about that. It bothers my wife that I still get carded. I don't know if we have a lot in the whys either, because we've got watch YouTube, know when to stop wiping, see the color yellow.
I don't see the color yellow. I have no color. I have no. This might be interesting. At least it's kind of related. I have no concept of colors, bar what sighted people associate them with. Like, I know now the idea of red makes me think of stuff that's hot, but through no built association of my own, if you know what I mean.
Socialization, the association of a color to its meaning, rather what we tend to have it bound to make sense to us, is ingrained in you now from socialization.
Yeah.
Which is part of my job, actually. Serialization of an experience. It's kind of why, well, you wouldn't know this, but why certain buttons are blue and green and others are not. You have primary actions and you have secondary, then tertiary actions, and they're all colored differently. Which for color blind folk, we have to do differently because there are different levels of color blindedness.
Well, there you go.
Y's got nothing for you, bud. Because
Well, I kind of
the caps.
I did the color thing. There you go. I put the color tangent in there.
It's not really a tangent. It's an explanation of sorts.
Have you seen any of the comments from the video that went out last night?
I saw a few.
Somebody wrote something like Simon inspired video. You guys are off on tangents as much as
Fuck
him.
off, Simon
And I just
inspired.
replied-
This is just two dudes drinking and like looking on Google. It's no different than what we would do if we were actually at a bar. Simon does this professionally. We're just hanging out. Although I do actually have ADHD, so who knows?
He claims he doesn't.
I'm not going to ruin anything for the
internet
guy
claims he
by
does.
stating my opinion on the matter. People can speculate all they want. I have my opinion, and I think it's correct.
I think probably I don't know if he thinks he does or not, but I think he doesn't care.
I think that's a big proponent. I think he absolutely does not care because his life is going just fine,
would he
regardless if
care?
he's diagnosed
Yeah,
or not.
his life is awesome.
Yeah.
It's not like he's on the poverty line in the UK and he needs a diagnosis to get a bit more benefit money.
Yeah, and it's not like he's inefficient with his time in the instance that it actually affects his work because he's been doing just fine. So even if he does have some form of attention deficit, he's doing perfectly fine.
Anybody who's ever exchanged emails with him knows that he spends a lot of time working.
Oh god, yeah. Okay.
Get the 5 o'clock emails in the morning.
That would be good for him in my instance, but no, I actually get 9 p.m. emails from him, which would be like crack of dawn check time. So,
Well, they're a year. They're a year ahead of us over there. No, an hour behind. An hour behind or an hour ahead? I can't remember.
yeah, I don't think the man stops working actually, unless he's on proper vacation. Let's see here.
So, are there any Zeds?
None. All the autocompletes don't even line up to that letter. Because there's really no adjectives that begin with Z or Z if you want to get serious.
No. Yeah, if you want to use the alphabet correctly, Z.
Oh, fuck off. So there's an anime where the protagonist's name is Goku. What would you call that anime's name in the UK? The middle one.
Goku?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's Dragon Ball. Is it Dragon Ball Z or Z out there?
It's Dragon Ball Z. Because it wouldn't say Dragon Ball Z. No.
Z. Which one is correct then? Or Zombie
How's it
Day?
pronoun-
Would you
how's it-
call it Z Day or Z Day? Or World War Z or World
Z
War
Day.
Z?
It would be World War Z.
Oh, come on. You were doing fine.
We, my wife and I, 'cause she's from the north, and they use like the more. It isn't American because Americans got it from the north, but it's more. The Americans got it from the UK, but it's like a different, like a harder A. So they'll say castle instead of castle, or grass instead of grass. You know.
So the further you're removed from the queen, I guess,
Yeah.
you get more American. Is that
The
it?
further you move from the queen, the less well you can speak her language.
Okay, so this may or may not be controversial, but I don't give a shit because we're just hanging out, and I can choose to cut this if I want. So there's an obvious stereotype that's either negative or positive. For the States, the stereotype tends to lean in the negative for Southern accents. Is it the same for the UK except flipped? Like the Southern accent is more proper and the Northern accent is a little bit more, everything is held together by duct tape.
It's portrayed that way. I've lived in the South and I've lived in the North. Both have their merits. It is different, but like the North is portrayed as the poorer, less educated area, like half of the country. It's not necessarily true, but like all the mining was done up north, so it's more like the motto is a good day's pay for a good day's work, rather than it's like you'd be surprised if you met a northern banker, for example. Even now, there are, but it's perfectly normal, but it would still trigger that stereotype in the average southerner to think, oh my god, you would expect northerners to be tarmacking roads, etc. It is totally unfair, but it is still a stereotype that exists.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Newcastle is in the north, yeah?
Yeah.
We have a beer, I think it's good.
Newcastle Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great beer.
It's dark, isn't it?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I like it. But so
nobody calls it Newcastle Brown though.
Not plugging another channel, but I'm a big What Culture fan, more specifically What Culture Gaming. And one of my favorite presenters is from Newcastle. And he doesn't always, but he's mentioned how rough it is up there. Is Newcastle like bad?
I've only been like passing through, but the Newcastleites, if you will, the people of Newcastle, are called Geordies. And yeah, it's like...
Why are they called Geordies?
I don't know. It's probably something I should know. Maybe I'll Google it one day. But yeah, it's... yes, it is a rougher area.
Okay, so Geordie is not spelled how I thought it'd be spelt. It's spelled with a G, like Georgie, but with a D instead. Oh, Geordie is an English dialect spoken by the Tyneside area of...
Yeah, that's Newcastle.
Tyneside, okay. Yeah. Area of northeast England.
It's the dialect of the...
Yeah, so it is a dialect. That's why they're called Geordies, is because they speak in the Geordie dialect.
There you go. I should have put those two things together. I knew all the information, just hadn't made the connection.
The wiki
it's the rhubarb juice, man. It's getting me.
The wiki is savage if you read between the lines. Like all English dialects, the Geordie dialect traces back to the Old English spoken by Anglo-Saxon settlers. Well, no fucking shit. Who else would it have been spoken by? Oh my god. In the 2017s, I worked for a 3-man startup. And, when you go into something like that, you have to see promise to want to go into something like that. And it is not a lifestyle that I would want for myself now, because I was their only, 3-person. So I was their only designer and front-end engineer. So not only did I have to design the shit, I had to build the shit that I designed. And because I leaned more into design, even when I was a developer, I had to make sure that I could design stuff to build.
What were the other guys doing?
Pardon? Oh, well, the other one was a back-end engineer, and he knew how to do front-end work, but he just didn't do it as effectively as I could, because that's what I specialized in. And And I would actually write
just
out
had
the
this
spec for him
image.
to write the API for me to pipe into. And the third guy was our
I just had this
CEO,
image
which
of
was
you
basically
doing all
marketing.
the work, and
Hmm?
I just had this image of you doing all the work, and then the other two guys just sitting around drinking coffee.
Oh, fuck no. No.
Yeah, we're involved.
Oh, no. So the CEO, he's probably one of the best bosses I've hands down ever had, which kind of makes sense for the company that we were trying to do. It was basically management software, but he was probably the hardest working asshole ever that I've ever met in my histories of working and contracting for startups. The dude took a huge pay cut to make sure that the backend engineer and myself got paid towards the beginning days of the startup, where we thought we were going to sunset the app, but it didn't need to be sunset. We automated a lot of things after that. It just hasn't been updated since then, I don't think. But yeah,
I've never had that. I've never had a job with that much responsibility, I don't think.
don't work for a startup, let alone like an early stage, tiny ass startup. It was good though. It was an experience. It was really fun. I don't recommend it for anyone that is well into their career in tech to, backpedal into that.
A friend, I used to do some code editing when I was at college with some friends, and one of them moved over to Australia and set up his own ethical hacking company. And he came back over to the UK about 2 years later, 2 years after we left college. And he called me up and he said, come up to London and see me. I want to talk to you. And I was like, dude, I'm unemployed. It was just before I started working in a call center. So I can't even afford the train ticket to London. He said, no, I'll send a car. So he sent a car, picked me up from Portsmouth, drove me all the way up to London, put me up in a hotel overnight. Nice hotel. Drinks, all that included. And he asked me to go over and work with him. He'd already got a fairly well-established company going over there. And he said, look, I want you to come over. He offered me a very more than fair wage. And he said he'll put me up over there until I get my own place and all that. And just at the time, I had things going on that I couldn't leave. Like my gran wasn't well and I couldn't go at the time. And so I didn't. And then by the time I could have gone, the position wasn't available anymore. And it's one of those things I always think back, like, what would have happened if I had gone? But I don't regret it at all. The work would have been insanely hard, and I like my life now. And it's a life that I wouldn't have.
It's always one of those things. Like how I met my wife stems from something like that. And if I hadn't met her, I don't think I would have gotten into tech. And if I didn't get into tech, I wouldn't have had a lot of the experience that I did have. But the decision to go to an event where I met her was one of those, could I manage going or shouldn't I? It's irresponsible if I go, but should I? I ended up going, obviously. And I think my life would have been drastically different if I hadn't. I don't regret it.
Well, your wife would have been different too.
Very arguable, actually. So we met at an event through by a friend who happened to have been in a lot of other friend groups. And we would have met eventually, hands down. But the event that we met each other at was fairly significant. But man, working for a 3-man startup, that was good times. It was rough. But do you watch What Culture? Because I think they're bigger in the UK than they are in the States.
I was trying to think. There is a YouTuber from What Culture that I do know, but I can't remember. I used to watch a lot of. I don't have a lot of time for YouTube now. I watch Zay Frank, who I said. Do you remember I sent you the kid snake video? Anybody who's still watching and hasn't
drifted away because we've gone on a tangent. I don't know the guy at all. I have no affiliation with him. But check out Zay Frank. I might even put a link in the description. His things are fucking awesome.
Same with What Culture. No affiliation. I just fucking love them. But
Yeah,
I'm going to describe one of my favorite presenters. And I think you'll know who, because it's apparently a common theme for YouTubers to have this type of description. The man's got a beard. He's bald. He's British. He shares the first name of a Brain Blaze editor.
Sam. It's got to be Sam.
Jules.
Oh, I didn't think you'd use your own name.
I'm a Brain Blaze editor.
Yeah. But I thought you would have just no.
Yeah, no. He's one of my favorites. My absolute favorites that have their own channel now, and it's a good one. I'm glad they actually got that up and running. Ever heard of Team Triple Jump?
No.
If you liked What Culture gaming in the early days, go check out Team Triple Jump, because they have the same narration style, and it's a good time. And they have long lists that I can fall asleep to, like 100 best games of all time, 100 worst games of all time, the top Metal Gear Solid games and shit like that. Like, their lists are fun, and they put you to sleep in a good way, not a bad way.
Yeah, we always fall asleep to YouTube, my wife and I. Neither of us can fall asleep without something going on in the background. I grew up in a house with, at the most, 8 other people, so quiet kind of unnerves me. I was down here a couple of months ago writing a script, so like nobody's talking, I'm just typing away, and it is fucking quiet down here. Well, because it's a concrete vault. Yeah, it's just, I don't like silence.
Lucky bastard. My wife is, I need quiet to sleep, and I'm one of those, I need noise to sleep. So it clashes. But I get it.
That's what AirPods are for, dude.
Even if I'm by myself, which is preferred when I am concentrating and working, I have to have something.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. If when I'm working, I need no distractions. I took this place because for 2 reasons I took this office. One, because it was a basement, and I wanted to produce videos out of a basement and carry on the Brain Blaze sort of in-joke. And 2, because it is like a fortress of solitude. If I'm at home, I'm so easily distracted. I just need quiet. But I can't go to sleep when it's quiet. It's weird.
I mean,
my wife thinks I have ADHD.
You don't have to have ADHD to prefer a certain environment.
Oh no, there are many other reasons.
It's really funny because I have been diagnosed with ADHD, and I know for a fact my wife does, but she's not diagnosed. Like, it's to a point where I am medicated, so I can't concentrate on my work. She's not. So when I am medicated, I get really irritated really quickly. Because
I'll have. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say when I'm.
No. I've interrupted you loads of times.
I was just gonna say when I am medicated, I'm like fixated, like invested levels of fixation on like a conversation or anything that I just want to focus in on. So a conversation with her tends to deviate a lot, which normally is fine. But when I am medicated, it's more like, can you go back to can you round back quick enough, please? Instead of like branching and branching and branching, which I know this is my problem, not hers. Though I can definitely see it. And I know when I'm unmedicated, it gets that way. If you've ever seen me joke around on Discord, especially, it's like that. Except I go a little bit more hard. Because me unmedicated is a disaster.
So I solve any problems like that I have with coffee. Like I'll have 2 cups of coffee, strong coffee, before I go to bed. Otherwise, I can't go to sleep. Coffee is my medicine.
Do you get dark or light roasts?
I prefer something in the middle, but I don't like it so dark it's bitter. But it depends what mood I'm in. Because I get Skull Crusher coffee, which is allegedly the strongest coffee in the world. Actually, there's a good video on Decoding the Unknown. It's the Stonehenge episode, and Simon drank a whole pot of Skull Crusher coffee, and he's trying to do like a quite serious Decoding the Unknown, but he's holding back a kind of brain blaze buzz because he drank all this coffee.
And that's how I know that he does not have ADHD, because that would actually like mellow him out.
Yes, I have to. I'm fully addicted to coffee, but there are many other things I've been addicted to in the past that are much worse for you. I'll take coffee, you know.
I haven't had a proper cigarette in a very long time, and I miss it so much.
I'm doing well. I'm still on nicotine, but I haven't smoked for a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe.
I'm on like 4 years.
Wow. Fucking show off.
No, I'm like, because I have a child that I had to quit, but
I have a child.
My wife and I had a deal. It was a little bit different, but whenever I'm one of the smokers where a cigarette smell is very appealing to me still. So when we travel abroad, I'm just, when I smell it, and I always will when we're traveling, I get sucked in. It's just.
Have you been to Italy? Italy is like the smoking capital of the world, man.
We went to Thailand, my dude. If you've ever been to Southeast Asia,
I haven't been
you could see the plume of smoke. That's not smog. It's from the fucking smokers. Oh man, I fucking miss it.
I've been through long gaps of not. So I didn't start smoking. This is way off topic. If people are still here, hi. If not, Julian and I are just having a chat. I never smoked tobacco till I was about 21. Well, tobacco on its own anyway. Then I've given up and started again, and given up and started again loads of times. But even when I'm not smoking, I'll go and stand with the smokers, you know. So when we went to Italy on holiday, I mean, my wife hates even the smell of cigarette smoke. But I'm like, we were walking through the villages in Italy, and everyone's smoking, and I'm just like,
It's a terrific smell, isn't it?
It is. It's wonderful.
Yeah, we go to Hawaii often because it's the closest that we can go where it's paradise. And there's always smokers there. And every time I get off a plane, walk a little bit, catch a whiff, I know I'm in paradise.
Yeah, it just makes the stress drop out your shoulders, doesn't it? It's just like
Oh yeah. It's one of those. One of those scents that's both nostalgic and relaxing at the same time. Just,
it's a weird thing.
Oh, it's a terrific thing. How many beers are you in at this point? Because I think at this point we've gone on for like an hour 10.
This will be. I'm holding it up and touching the can, but that's not helpful to you. I've drank one, and I've got about a third left. But I won't. I won't drink. I only brought 2 with me, and I wouldn't drink more than 2 beers on what I would call a school night anyway.
No, I'm on my third.
Because
in the afternoon.
I try and be careful. Like I said, I've said loads of times, I don't drink anywhere like I used to. Anywhere near like I used to. and that's better. I get a lot more done.
I mean, I don't drink anywhere like I used to, but I always got shit done. I always drink at night. I just don't drink to the same volume as I used to.
Oh, when I was running the pubs, during the week I would drink 15 pints a day and not think anything of it.
That's just a good night for me.
And 20, 30 at Friday night and Saturday night. But it got to the point where it wasn't. I never felt drunk because I was constantly drunk for 2.5 years. You know.
How familiar are you with American university stereotypes?
Fairly.
I went to ASU.
Well, assuming they're the same as the movies. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a very different time. Yeah. We used to play 55 cup beer pong. So 110 cups in total.
Fair enough. Yeah.
For someone's birthday. Oddly enough, it was my birthday once a week. Yeah, that was a good time. Parent now, older now. Liver's gonna give out if I don't stop drinking like that.
And hangovers suck.
Hangovers are a thing, man. Like,
yeah,
they used to last like what, an hour, and now they go on like a week.
If you were unlucky, if you got up and quickly treated it with bacon and coffee, it was fine.
Yeah.
But I know hangovers. I went out with my mate Swally. Yeah, you'll be watching actually. Hi Swally. And I hadn't seen him. He moved up to Birmingham, and I hadn't seen him for probably 10 years. And he moved back down, and we went out for drinks a couple of weeks ago. And I haven't drank like that in years. And it took me 3.5 days to feel normal again. I can't afford to do that, you know?
Mate, I got a hangover while drinking one night with my wife. The kid went down early. We got kind of squirrely. We put on I think it was either Friends or How I Met Your Mother, but it was one of the shows that we bonded over in the early days of us dating, and we kind of just wanted to relax. Took out some of the older beers from the 2017s and 18s that I'd been aging for a little bit that were being vintaged, I guess, bottled. And at that point, the alcohol is pretty high. They're like high teens per bottle. They're like 3.5 bottles in. Wife is almost knocked out. And I get this wicked fucking headache while sipping on a beer. I took a breath and just started thinking to myself, is this a fucking hangover? It sure as shit feels like one.
Old.
Then the dry mouth kind of kicked in. Then the craving for very oily, very bad food came in. I think I had like a $95 DoorDash bill that night. But yeah, got a hangover whilst drinking. Getting old fucking sucks.
Grease and coffee. And orange juice, for some reason.
For some people, orange juice makes me puke if I have a hangover.
Orange juice and apple juice. I think it just reminds me of hotel buffets. I used to play a sport called goalball, which I think I've spoken about briefly, but yeah, if you could stick a little clip in, that'd be great. There's loads on YouTube, or I can send you something.
How do you spell it?
But basically, it's goal as in to score a goal, and ball as in the thing you would use to score a goal. But yeah.
It looks like soccer had sex with dodgeball, my guy.
Yeah, that's a fair analogy. You have three people on each team. Everyone wears sort of blackout shades, so they're ski goggles with foam sprayed on the inside. So everybody, no matter your level of sight, you're all like on a a level playing field.
Equally handicapped.
Yeah, equally handicapped. See, handicapped, you can't say handicapped in the UK. It's very American. It's not considered. It's not considered acceptable.
Well, fuck off. The actual definition of it is a handicap. Like golf, you have a handicap in golf.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Oh, well, if I ever go to the UK,
Like I said-
I have to
I said
wash
in
my
a brain
mouth a
blade.
lot.
I said in a brain blaze the other week, a doctor told me off for saying blind.
Wait, what?
That was
But that's what you are.
I know, but he said, "Oh no, we're not allowed to say blind anymore. We say severely sight impaired."
You're not severely
So
sight
you can
impaired
say
if you
whatever you
don't
want.
have sight.
Yeah,
An impairment
at
is
least be
different from the
extremely-
inability.
but yeah. Sorry, yeah, global. Yeah. The idea for those who don't know is you have 3 people on each team. You have to throw a very heavy ball with a bell in it past the people on the other team, basically. But I used to play at national level, and we used to go off to these tournaments, like 3-day tournaments. And the first day, everybody would be playing to the best of their abilities. But it didn't matter because whoever won the tournament would be the team that had the best tolerance to hangovers and playing sports at the same time. Because you'd get there on a Friday, go and get smashed in the bar, play on Saturday, get smashed in the bar Sunday, and then you'd have the final maybe Monday morning after 3 days just drinking. So it really didn't matter how good you were. It was just down to your alcohol tolerance.
So, for those in the tech industry, we can equate this for being a speaker at a tech conference. Because tech conferences are typically around 3 days. And the first day is always the busiest day. So if you got to speak on the first day, it's probably what you want to do. Because people will retain that. Because after the first night, everyone
Nobody's
gets really
listening.
drunk. And the second day, only those that survived that well enough or didn't drink would be at the talks for the second day. And on the third day, if you had anyone at your talk, you must be either very boring or very compelling. Oh my God. Back in 2016, I went to a really great conference in Germany. I saw that shit firsthand. Because after the first day, well, obviously after first day, that night, I think there was like a mob of maybe 90 of us walking bar to bar, restaurant to restaurant shit. The second day, I somehow, well, maybe it's because I was in my 20s still, I rolled out of bed, walked to the conference. No one was in any talks. So I just walked back and just knocked out. Woke up later on in the day and just walked around the city, had fun. Third day, not that bunch of hangover, went back, fucking nobody was there. But yeah, same time. Except, it's not the winners that stuck around. It was the folks that didn't drink or just had to really be there. But this ball looks heavy duty.
It is heavy. It's hollow, but I think it's 1.5 inches solid rubber.
With a bell?
Yeah, it's got they're like falconry bells, I guess, inside, and there's holes in the ball, so the sound comes out. But when you play at national and international level, some of the guys can throw the ball at 90 miles an hour.
Jesus.
And you have to deliberately get in the way of that. when you've been drinking for 2. And the thing is as well, you play a tournament, you have six players available, but only 3 players on the court. But if you played a 3-day tournament, constantly being hit by that ball, you can't walk. I mean, even when I was young, you'd come back, and for the next few days, you'd feel like you'd been in a car accident.
I mean, you guys in the UK just like abusing yourselves with sports. Like, you may not have American hand egg, but you've got shit that will fuck you up, like this sport, rugby, or just drinking.
Rugby. Oh, there was a pub I used to drink in called the Centurion when I was at college, and there was an American guy who used to come in there every week, and he used to bring us back. He used to travel back and forth between, I think, Texas and the UK on business, and he used to bring back bottles of Everclear for the pub.
Oh my God.
And because you can't buy Everclear in England.
You can't buy Everclear in a lot of places in the States. You can in the Southwest, though.
But he'd bring back a bottle of Everclear every time he went. He came back one Saturday, liter bottle of Everclear on the shelf, and then he went away for 2 weeks. And he came back in and he like looked up at the shelf. He's like, "Where's the Everclear?" And he said, we drank it." "What? You drank a bottle of Everclear in a week?" We went, no, we drank it on Sunday when you brought it in.
It's not okay. Wait, okay, between how many people?
4.
That's not okay. I thought it was like, you were pouring it out for the bar. So, 50, 60 people get like a shot or something. That's not okay. That shit is flammable, man.
It evaporates if you put it on your hand.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to call this because I've just got a late battery alert on my computer and I don't have a power supply.
Well, we'll call it here if you want to play us out.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. Sorry, the actual Googling bit was short, but we didn't have that much left to Google. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really, actually, guys, if you could share it, that would be amazing, because the more followers we get, the quicker we'll get monetized, and then I'll start doing live streams. That's a promise I've made to people. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks again, Julian, for coming.
Of course.
Hopefully you'll join me for something else.
Hey,
we'll come up with another topic and we'll get it done.
Only if you want to have me, man. Like, again, it's just a Thursday for me with a beer and a friend.
Definitely. We'll sort something else out and we'll get it done soon. Thanks for coming, guys, and see you soon.
Bye.